And good morning, everyone. 710 KNUS Denver's talk station on a Saturday morning. Beautiful, beautiful day. September 27th, 2025. 710 KNUS. And tomorrow's a really big day. Takes a year of planning for the MC1 Honor Run. But I'll tell you what's going to happen on the show this morning. Steffan Tubbs is going to be with us. And as you know, Steffan's been through a cancer operation. And a couple of different times we had him scheduled to be with us. And because he didn't feel good, he couldn't come on the radio. I had a long conversation with him 2 days ago, and then yesterday, a quick drop. Steffan will join us at 10 o'clock this morning. Mike Connor, former investigative reporter with the Post, and recently Robert Redford died. And Mike called me and said, do you remember when Robert Redford's daughter was going to see you and her boyfriend was murdered? And I kind of maybe half did. And so he's going to come on, and he'll be with us this morning. Terri Rascon, who's running for Jefferson County School Board, very upset about Evergreen and what happened at Evergreen, and about, again, arming teachers. And then Crystal Baldwin will be with us. And Crystal's husband is the reason why MC1 is taking place. It was his call sign, MC1, Motorcycle 1. So let's go get the guys and let's go to work. Ladies and gentlemen, I think for the very first time they've ever worked together on a radio show. They have worked together for quite a while, 12 years now for the MC1. Please say good morning, welcome back, Principal Frank DeAngelis of Columbine High School, and the one, the only, from the Deputy Sheriff's Office, Mark Miller is with us, these are really the moving forces in why we can do MC1. So let's begin. Coach, good morning. Thanks for coming up on the show.
Good morning. How are you, Peter and Mark?
Yeah, Mark's there. Mark, good morning, man. Thanks for coming up on the show.
Good morning. You bet.
I had to send Mark a text message yesterday about behavior. No. So, Frank, take us back, because this is a series of events starting with what happened when we did Emily's parade and how it morphed into that. And by the way, Dave's widow, Crystal, will be with us at noon. But Frank, give it an overall, and then Mark pick up on how you guys all got into this. So, Frank, if you would.
Sure, and it's kind of eerie because today marks the 19th remembrance of what happened up at Platte Canyon, and it was on this date, 2006, that Emily Key was murdered up there. And I was listening to the radio. Peter, I listened to your show every morning. I think it was KHOW at the time. And
it was
talking about Emily, and we decided to do a parade, and we talked to John Michael and Keys and Alan Keys, and they said Emily loved parades, and so we came up this idea to do a motorcycle rally, and we said, and this was less than 2 weeks after the shooting had occurred, and so we decided we were going to go from Columbine High School up to Platte Canyon, Bailey, Colorado, and we said this is the first time we're going to do it, and hopefully some people will respond, and we started out at Columbine, and I was there along with my brother, and you were there, Peter, and we kept saying, well, it's the first year, it's only going to get better. And then all of a sudden, these bikes start pouring in. And I think by the time it was said and done, we were close to over 2,000, close to maybe 3,000 bikes. You can know better than I, Peter. And as a matter of fact, when we left Columbine, the last bike to leave, the first one was arriving at Bailey. That's how many bikes we had. And so we started that every year, and we continued in the first year. I think first couple of years we ended over at Vandermeer Speedway, and then after that we moved it to a bigger venue. And then it was after 10 years, John Michael Keys and Ellen Keys asked if, they did not want to do it. But meanwhile, we had a situation, and I'll never forget this. I went to school on a Monday morning, and our school resource officers were crying. They said, you need to come to my office, or their office. And I said, what's going on? And they told me about Dave Baldwin, losing his life while on duty. He was hit by a car. And I immediately called Peter to let him know, and we were just taken back. And then we contacted Sheriff Schrader and said we wanted to do something. And so that's when we started the MC1. in honor of Dave Baldwin, and that was actually, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, in May. And then after the 10-year for Emily's, we talked to the Keys and said, could we move it to September, because that would be much better, and that's where we are today.
Mark, when did you, I'm trying to remember when you first got involved. Was it during the Emily Keys parades when Jeff was part of that, and is that where we first met you?
Yeah, so I was also, I was on the motor unit at the time, and we did those escorts for all the bikes to go up to Platte Canyon on those runs. So I've been involved since back then, and then, like Frank said, when Dave was killed, we decided to do a motorcycle ride in his honor, and that's what led us into forming a foundation and becoming the MC1 Foundation. And this is our 12th annual run tomorrow at Columbine.
I should say that Mark Miller may be the finest motorcycle rider that I know. I mean, I know some crazy people on motorcycles, but Mark Miller is, without a doubt, the best I know. He's a professional rider in so much as he's an officer, but I mean, short of going to the track and seeing those guys, Mark Miller takes the prize. And so MC1, I'm not even sure who named it. Frank, do you or Mark, who named it MC1? Because they were the call signs.
I believe it was Sheriff Schrader.
Mark.
I believe it was Sheriff Schrader, Jeff Schrader, when we were talking about and planning what we were going to do and that we were going to get together for this. We, at that time weren't even thinking about an annual or a foundation or anything, but I think it was Jeff Schrader that mentioned that he liked the honor run.
Oh, what a good man. And Jeff will be with us.
But I made a mistake. And I made a mistake when I got up on stage, and I said, this is the first annual, and people are kind of looking at me saying, oh, we're going to do this again.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. I said, oh, I think Mark wanted to tase me, saying.
I remember eyebrows went up, because we're standing up there together. First annual, I said, apparently we're going to do this again, and the need was great. At 12 years now, it's been, I'm sorry, go ahead, Frank, apologize.
No, it wasn't. We were planning on doing it annually, but the very next year we had an officer in Denver that he was on his bicycle on duty, and he was run over by a car, and that was John Adsit, and we decided let's do the same thing for John Adsit, and we did that the next year, and it wasn't until then that we decided, hey, there's a need for this, and we're gonna continue this mission that we're on, and we've done it every year, and this is our 12th.
65. These are first responders, law enforcement, and others. 65 survivors, and I feel really just great about this. We collectively, over $500,000 has been donated to those men and women, and you got to see it to believe it. And so this Sunday, the 12th annual MC1 Honor Run motorcycle fundraiser starts at Columbine High School. You were goofing on Frank, Mark, about he just picks up the phone and tells it's DeAngelis, But Columbine High School coach has been so good to us through all of these things.
Well, and I'll tell you, Peter, why. I mean, I think back, and I'll talk about this tomorrow. I can't help but standing on that stage and looking in that parking lot and thinking back to April 20th, 1999, and all the responders, and so many of them that'll be there tomorrow were there on that horrific day. And then also, like I said, Emily Keys, and then just unfortunately what happened up at Evergreen on September 10th. And those officers are there, and this is just a small way to say thank you for all that you've done for, all of us in Colorado and Jefferson County. And until the day I leave the face of this earth, I'm going to be involved in this.
Both of us, and I think what's interesting is sheriffs and chiefs and all kinds of folks show up, and the top of the shop of Front Range law enforcement and first responders have come to this, and it's really turned into an event. So, having said that, Mark, are you still riding on duty, or you're retired from that part of it? You're still riding?
No, I am still full time.
Are you teaching?
I do teach classes. We do a basic school and we certify new officers. We run one of those a year, and I'm still involved in the advanced motor school in June, and now we have a motorcycle rodeo that benefits MC1 that we put on in June too. So, yep, I'm still full time.
Man can ride. Man can flat ride. So, Coach, on Sunday, what time will you guys all be there? I'll be there early too, but
Peter, and I got to say, going back to Emily's parade and MC1, we could not do it without your support. I mean, you really are the voice of the people, and you get it out there, and you're so well respected, not only by the bikers community, but by law enforcement and first responders, and you get the message out there. But I will be there at 6 a.m. to get with the people from Columbine. They're just fantastic. They're maintenance people, and they're there to set it up, and we have it down to a science, and we'll probably get the music going probably around 7. We don't want to wake the neighbors up, but probably around 7:30 and get going, and then we'll start the show.
And Mark, you'll be there early. I'll get there early. You ride your duty bike, and then Mark Miller tell folks you just came back from, and they call it adventure riding or off-road riding. Just a blurb. Where have you been, and what did you do?
We've done a lot of Colorado this year on some adventure rides, and these are smaller dirt bikes that can carry a payload, and we put all of our camping gear on it and just start riding passes, kind of with no plan, just where we're gonna end up is where we're gonna sleep. So it's been a fun ride for that.
Sounds like my childhood. where we end up, that's where we're going to sleep. So the guys I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would like to say that, we're going to start at 8 o'clock tomorrow. Our registration will be open. We've got a food truck on site, and we've got donuts and coffee there. We've got a lot of shirts, coins, pins, memorabilia for the honor run that we've got for sale there. And we're going to put on a really nice ceremony and honor some of our beneficiaries. And I won't say who, but we will have some beneficiaries that are going to speak tomorrow.
And so it starts at, I guess you can say registration starts at 8, but doors are open when DeAngelis gets there. 9:15 is our ceremony. 10 a.m., first bikes are out, and then we go to a place called the Main Event. And Mark talked about the Main Event.
Well, the Main Event has been great for us. They've got a venue that's big enough to host us, and that's kind of our we end up there every year, and it's kind of a nice gathering. It's nice to meet and greet and have a drink with someone and talk about the year, and it's just where we all kind of gather. And the non-riders that don't ride motorcycles that want to do something and come out and support would come out to the Main Event to talk to us there.
And if you want to see the ceremony, park in the street. You can't come into Columbine's parking because the bikes are there. But park and come in. It's very emotional. I look over at DeAngelis every year, and we both tear up. And it's $40 a rider and $50 if you bring a passenger. And MC1 since 2014, we've helped now 65 Colorado first responders who have been injured while on duty, with over $500,000 being donated to the survivors. And it's really because of folks that come, sponsors and supporters and volunteers. And it's an event participation. And the 12th annual, it is tomorrow morning. And these two guys have, Frank DeAngelis, I don't know who I was talking about to you the other night. We were talking about, I brought up Frank and brought up Mark and Jeff Schrader and all the amazing men and women that I've met. And by the way, I should tell you that Steffan Tubbs is going to be on the show at 10. He's been through pretty heavy cancer operations, and he feels good enough to join us. And I know Steffan feels this way. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys. It's just, it's my honor. It's my pleasure to be around you both. And Frank and I go back, and I tell people stories about that, and then meeting Mark Miller, who clearly is the rider, and if I could ride half as good, a third as good as Mark Miller, I'd be happy. So it's all tomorrow, and after a year of planning, and Crystal Baldwin's going to come on with us, fellas, today at 12 o'clock. And she, of course, she was, I always said that when I met Dave, Mark and Frank and I have talked about it. Mark, I didn't even know he was in law enforcement. He was like, he came to Emily's parade, and he had Crystal with him, and they rode together. She rode her own bike, and big raw-boned kid, leathers on. I didn't know who we, And then when Frank told me that, and it was like meeting Jeff. I didn't know that Jeff was I've told that story too many times. I didn't know Jeff was the man. I just thought he was some other biker that I liked. And I don't know, fellas. The world works in strange ways. But you two guys are so important. And without Mark and without, that's you guys. So,
thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll get up.
Very much so.
Get up early.
All right. I'll have my boots on the one time a year I wear them.
Oh no, we got to do about the boots. Yeah, who? Hey, this is back to Mark. Who invented the order of the boots? Which one of you guys did that?
Well, I remember at one of our meetings, we presented you with a set of motor boots, and I didn't expect you to wear them, but then you wore them to the event. I thought, well, we got to get Frank a pair next year, and so that's how.
I wear them once a year, and I should probably wear them more because they're. I never believed the story. Go get them wet. I just never believed that. And that's how you do it, right, Mark?
That's how you do it.
And Crystal told me about when Dave had took his motor boots and the motors. Explain the boots. That should take a second. Mark.
They're leather uppers, and they go just to below your knee, and they're like stovepipes when you get them. And so, the secret to breaking them in is you put them on, and you grab 2 beers, and you go sit in the hot tub. And when you finish your 2 beers, your boots are they're ready to
go. Oh man! And now I've had these boots for 4 years, and I wear them once a year, and I haven't been able to, because Miller told me all the time, oh no, and then Crystal told me that she saw Dave jump in the hot tub with the boots on. So I thought, okay, yeah. Wow. I don't know, fellas.
The only way to do it quick, otherwise it's a long break-in period, and it's very painful.
They are very painful, and I'll wear them tomorrow. I love you both. I'll see you early tomorrow morning, and we have, again, Crystal's going to join us at noon to talk about all of that. So you can online pre-register, and it's the 12th annual MC1 Honor Run, and it's a year's worth of work, and these two men are the men who moved the land, and it's Frank DeAngelis and Mark Miller. Guys, I'll see you tomorrow morning early.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks,
Bye, Mark.
Thanks, guys. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you for letting me do that. 303-696-1971. Again, tell you about the show. Steffan Tubbs is coming up at 10 o'clock. And Steffan's been through quite a bit. This is his first appearance. So I'm looking for it. So hang on. We got a turnaround here coming up. Beautiful day headed our way. Stay here, 710 KNUS. its own. Morning, everybody. It's a Saturday, the 27th of September, 2025. I'm Peter Boyles, 710 KNUS. 81 the high today. And tomorrow we have 80 degrees for the high for the MC1 and maybe some rain up in the mountains, it says, but that's okay. And then 78 on back to work Monday and some rain coming in the mountains as well. They got snow. It really looked good. So let me pose a question here for we have about 25 minutes of open lines, and then Steffan will be with us. Then Mike Connor and around the corner, Terri Rascon is with us, and we end with Crystal Baldwin. The country today, what, and as my grandmother would say, what in the Lord's name, what in God's name, I think she said, are we watching? I mean, this is insanity. And did you see the story that really, because my relationship with the cops and everything we're going to do tomorrow, an Aurora woman and these two Southern California women are facing charges after a federal grand jury, this is returned a 2-count indictment. Here's what they were doing. They were following Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents home and then live streaming the addresses on social media. The grand jury indictment was unsealed yesterday after the suspects were charged with 1 count of conspiracy, 1 count of public disclosing personal information on a federal agent. The suspects are identified in the 2 women in California, but locally of Aurora, Colorado, the lovely Ashley Brown, 38 years of age. Now, with all the craziness that you and I have been watching with these random shootings, and I listened a little bit to Caldera this morning. I was show prepping. Ashley Brown is in essence, and these other 2 women, one's named Sandra Sanaim, and the other woman is Cynthia Rangoza. They're putting targets on people's backs. When you go to social media in this country and the world today, look at the insanity that's on social media. So 303-696-1971. This is a classic example. What do you do with this woman? They stalked what all I could think of was there was a woman named Jeannie Craig, and she was the den mother of the Bruderschwagen of the Order. And she's the one that followed Alan Berg until she found out where Berg lived. She was the one that Pat Connor had to identify in the courtroom in Seattle. Found her in the parking lot at KOA Radio. She was outside KOA Radio standing across the street. She actually came in and applied for an internship, and she was younger than I am now, but she was no college student, and Pat met her. And Jeannie Craig died in a penitentiary. But what she did was she went to the murderers, because with the Charlie Kirk story is the other side of the coin of the murder of Alan Berg. But so this Aurora woman and these 2 Southern Cals, they went and they tracked this man to his home and then live streamed the address on social media. And what do you do with that? 303-696-1971. And she in essence was trying to get, I believe, was what else would you put it up for? Somebody to come to his house and do damage to himself and his family. And the story. But this country, I think, has come apart. And I'm watching stuff internally, and then you read externally what's going on in the world, and Putin's, making these saber rattlings, as historians call them, the Gaza, what's taking place in the Middle East, Ukraine, Putin, threats of going to war in Venezuela, that there's going to be a strike in Venezuela, but more importantly, inside of this country. Have you ever seen it like this? Those of us who lived through the 60s, I have this conversation with people. Hey, when the war ended and Nixon resigned, the music changed. I got my first gig in a disco, playing records, playing music changes, clothing changes. You're not shabby. You're not, remember bell bottoms hit and really cool high shoes hit and fly collars and puka shells, and the music changes and everything changes because Nixon has resigned and the war is come to a complete end. And I think that's when Gerald Ford really shines on both of those. But what we are seeing now, this is ongoing. This is a Stephen King novel. I may have told the story that I had the chance to be with Stephen King and critique, and I'm a huge Stephen King fan, but his stuff doesn't die. I mean, it reappears again and again and again and again. And that's this stuff. So phones are lighting up, and Adam's clearing the calls, and Steffan Tubbs at the top of the hour. But where do we go with names on anybody? We're having problems. Well, no guts, no glory. Joe in Arvada, you're on the radio show. Good morning. You there?
Yeah, I wish we could call it what it is. It's leftist Democrats that are doing this. But let's call it out. Why dance around it? This is not Republicans. This is not conservatives. These are leftists that are trying to dox people. It's Antifa tactics.
All right, let's start early on. When people talk about the media, and you watch what happened during the years of Lyndon Johnson and Richard Nixon, and that's where the stage is set. And when mainstream America realizes the lies, and particularly the arguments, and it's really interesting what they just went through on banning people from being on air and or being hosting shows.
Who?
The argument about who was going to be on television or off television or what gets said on radio, not on radio. If you go back and relive what happened with Dan Rather and Richard Nixon and Walter Cronkite, and that was a big fight internally, and it's gone on. And when Watergate sets the stage, and I listened to somebody on Jeff and Bill yesterday saying Republicans never go to jail. I said, what are you talking about? With the exception of Richard Nixon, they all went to jail, and they were all Republicans. I mean, what's this idea that there were but what I'm saying to you is, well, you have to do this historically, Joe. You can't just take it out of context.
Well, okay, when you say that, are you really trying to tell us that these two women that are doxing these guys? Or trying to get them killed. Yeah, they're trying to get the mob to come down on them, the mob crowd to go and out them and burn their house down. Well, here's the thing. Do you really think they were following Richard Nixon's story?
No, listen to me.
No.
Listen to me. There's stuff that you think that you have no idea where it came from, and I'm trying to explain to you how this country is coming to a point where I don't know if it can return. I don't know if it can come back to what it was. I'm serious.
Well, what has happened is that law and order was let go by the leftist mob that ran this country. And if you think that it's just something that happened back in Richard Nixon that caused this...
I'm trying to explain something to you on a historical stepping stone, that it isn't something that... I mean, how old are you, Joe?
61.
Are you 61?
Yes.
Then you should remember some of this.
I do, and it's absurd. I followed all the news all the way back from when I was a 10-year-old. Here's the thing. What has happened over the last 20 years is that we stopped enforcing law and order. That is what has let this and it is a communist move. You can't deny that these people are Marxists. They have the levers of power, and they have cultivated this mob mentality, and they are orchestrating it with monies from different people like Soros, and they are causing the problem.
All right, I appreciate. It's not the case, but we can talk. Don, you're on the radio show Saturday morning. Thank you.
You're welcome, and good morning.
Morning to you.
I agree with you. I think this country is heading to a precipice that will be crossed, and I think that 2 years ago I questioned where it was going, and right now after seeing everything, the media has lied to us forever. They've been biased one way or the other.
And has politicians. What the awakening is, if there is that did George Bush tell you the truth? Did Dick Cheney tell you the truth? Did Richard Nixon tell you the truth? Did Lyndon Johnson tell you the truth? Of course not. Of course not.
Lyndon Johnson?
Yeah.
That guy never uttered a truthful word in his life.
He came close, but you're right. So
in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think but this generational part of it in reading history, and that was negated here a second ago, but we arrive at this point. It didn't start yesterday afternoon, but it starts, back in Watergate and before, and the media turns. And if you remember when Walter Cronkite was getting ready to retire, and it was called the chair. It was Murrow's chair. It was Cronkite's chair. And Dan Rather wanted the chair. And he had run down Richard Nixon. In fact, had a lot to do with the investigations of Watergate and what was taking place. So when the network announces they're going to give the chair to Cronkite's chair to Rather, here it is again. The affiliates go nuts because they're owned by Republican men who are on Republican boards who were great supporters of Richard Nixon in spite of what Richard Nixon had done. So, but the network, just like we just watched, they gave Rather the chair. And, you can do what you want to do with Rather, but the fight was there. And Rather, and remember when the New York Times and the Washington Post and Richard Nixon was denying renewal of television licensing to that conglomerate, and I mean it's all been done before.
Well, it's just like people all upset about Jimmy Kimmel getting kicked off.
Yeah.
I seem to think that people like some of the people that were on Fox got kicked off. A lot of people got kicked off.
Tucker Carlson.
Media.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, well, Tucker would be the big example. But you also have how the different groups of the media have just destroyed opposing opinions.
No, but remember,
one of the things that Joe was talking about was the communists.
Yeah, well,
and that could be a part of it, but I think you ought to look around at just all the other groups that are trying to push
if you go
things.
back to Jimmy Kimmel, Tucker Carlson was part of the deal. When you read some of the books about what happens about the lies that are told on Fox News and why Rupert Murdoch had to pay off 700 and I always forget the number of millions of dollars for telling the lies that the election was stolen. So part of the settlement was the scalp of Tucker Carlson, but there was an internal fight about Carlson as well. But when Tucker Carlson got the gate, I didn't see anything like this happen, like Jimmy Kimmel, and
O'Reilly.
Well, O'Reilly, I'll tell you, O'Reilly did some stuff with women.
Yeah, he did.
And
but a lot of them do.
Well,
Matt Lauer.
But he's gone now. Matt Lauer's gone. The men who did these kinds of things are gone, and you can say they were who they were. Roger Ailes was brilliant. Roger Ailes created Rush Limbaugh, created Fox News, but he did what he did. And we saw him perp walk, me, Chuck Bonnewell, and Mark Crowley. We saw the perp walk on him in Cleveland. But these things aren't talked about, but everyone thinks this is instantly and only now, and it's not true. It's gone on. Now, the media goes when Walter Cronkite goes bad on the war, and people look at that as a jumping off point. That's before Watergate and the rest of it. But the realization was, you're lying to us. I'm talking about the politicians. Way before the media, the politicians are lying. And young men and women are getting killed. And that's really important. It's significant. So the country comes together to a degree for Reagan. There's moments that things turn back around, but we're on a train. We're on a long train, and it's not good. The answer is no.
I need to ask you a question.
Real quick. I'll tell you, put you on hold. Put him on hold, and you can ask the question. Stand by, everybody. 710 KNUS on a Saturday. Stay here. 4:16 before the hour. Steffan Tubbs making his first appearance since he has gone through a cancer operation. In the background, that's Johnny Paycheck, isn't it? Yeah, Colorado Kool-Aid. I remember that's a tune. 81 will be the high. Steph, right after the top of the hour, we have full lines. 81 will be the high, and 80 tomorrow for MC1. Dan Kaplis Law, and a friend and a good talk show host. And Danny suggests you choose a lawyer who shares your values, and because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan's the son of a cop. We've talked about his life coming up, and he's the good man. He really has worked hard, and he believes is the only attorney in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan's believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. And the Kaplis Law Firm, he's now with the Nuggets and the Avs, and Danny, a serious firm for serious cases, accepts righteous injury cases on percentage fee basis. Also he just won that case when that little girl was killed in the carnival, and he represents good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you're in a jam, you want help, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dankapleslaw.com at CAPLISlaw.com. All right, where are we? Where we going to go? We'll go here. This is Francis in Golden. Francis, you're on a radio show. Happy Saturday. Now we lost everybody. Phones went. If you were on the line calling the show, please call the show and get back. We just went flat. Email Lefty Tony from Denver. Big difference between Tucker Carlson and Kimmel. They were no overt actions or pressures by the government to fire Carlson. I'm talking about the reaction to Carlson's firing. Carlson was part of the deal that they had to make over the lying that Fox News did about, apparently Trump told the lie again the other day, that he really won the election or stolen election. So, no, it was about the reaction, Tony. All right, we go to Frank. Frank, you're on a radio show. Thank you and good morning.
Hey, Peter. Hey, sorry about that. I think I might have fat-fingered something.
No. We lost a whole string, so it isn't just you. Hi.
These things, but hey, you know what scares me a lot about what you're discussing here is that there's a fatalism to it, and I have a feeling that the far left and the far right, everybody's got to pump their brakes a little bit, and maybe the middle can bring it back together. But it seems to me like both extremes are making it seem like this, that the country's got to melt down one way or the other, that it's just bound to happen. And I think it's partly the far right. I think there's a religious component to it.
I agree.
The far left, I think there's a militant component to
Agreed.
it. And they're both completely wrong and incredibly dangerous. And I think the middle, where I think I align, I think where you align, I think where many people align, where absolutely most of the people align, can help stop this by basically kind of, not literally, but figuratively grabbing the other two extremes by the collar and putting them back at the kiddie table and saying, stop it. You're not running the show anymore. And I think that has to happen, because otherwise I'm a heavy believer in that you can speak it or believe it into existence. And right now, the country seems to be wanting to speak it or believe it into existence, and everything's got to melt down.
They have to find causal stuff, as an amateur historian. And one of my reactions to Charlie Kirk's assassination, is that's the Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo, yep. And he's murdered, which triggers the war. We're on something called a tripwire, and the whole world right now. I mean, Putin's rattling sabers, and the United States is talking about, making strikes into Venezuela, and They're bringing every general officer or admiral together, 800 of these men and women. And then you just watch inside the country and you think to yourself, the shootings continue and the insanity continues and the media becomes, whatever the hell it is. And I look at the media that you and I grew up on, and probably a lot of people did. There were 3 networks, and they put on a television news show, and the local guy, and I think the Camel Caravan with John Cameron Swayze, I think it was 15 minutes. And he had and he smoked a Camel. He had a cigarette, and I remember that. Carson.
I don't know if I'm quite old enough to remember that, but I've heard about it.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
And Pittsburgh had 2 papers, at the Pittsburgh Press and the Post Gazette, and maybe the Sun Telegraph. But one was a morning paper, and my grandma read that, and then my father didn't like the press because he didn't think it was whatever he didn't think it was, a working paper, a man, that. So then I got the paper route, and he liked the paper after that. He was like,
Peter, it's funny that you mentioned like the World War I, and for that matter, I think the French Revolution. These were conflicts that could have been avoided, and it seemed like everybody in these 2 situations were jonesing for a fight that nobody expected and nobody knew what would turn out in the long run.
First World War is a great example of that.
I mean, absolutely. There's absolutely no reason why that should have happened.
Well, there was an event prior to that called the Concert of Vienna. And again, I got to get a life, and everybody comes to agreement. And they're just waiting, and read something called the Willie Nicky letters, and it's
I've read parts of those. Yeah, they're all related. Everybody's related. They're talking about going on hunts and stupid things this because they're cousins.
They meet. They come on their royal yachts, and they go into the fjords, and they try to out-party each other, out-impress each other. Nicky Romanoff and Kaiser Bill and the King of England and all kind of minor leaguers. But then when they kill Franz Ferdinand, when Princeps was the guy's name, and they were the Black Hand, and they murder. Yeah. But if you read those tripwires, it takes a long time. When this guy kills Charlie Kirk, assassinates Charlie Kirk, I mean, it was way different than Alan Berg's murder, because I got a bunch of people talking about that, and I mean, it was nevertheless, you take a media guy and kill him for what he said.
For only what he said. I get a little. Here's what scares me a little bit, and I'm going to say this, and I don't know if it offends people or not, but maybe it just needs to be said. I'm seeing what amounts to coffin writing on the Charlie Kirk thing on both sides. And this is what scares me. It's a terrible tragedy. I'm not minimizing that. But when both sides try to take advantage of it, it becomes a compounding tragedy.
But, I was telling a friend, in the aftermath of Alan's assassination, I got plenty of unsigned letters. Because that was before email and everything else, that said horrible things about him, one being Jewish, 2, I mean, in essence saying, he really had it coming, but they weren't signed, and there wasn't, I mean, they're just those kinds of people. And the stuff you're right, that's said about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is, for all intents and purposes, that generation's Kennedy. He's Jack Kennedy.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
And to the young people I know that loved Charlie Kirk, he's Kennedy. They didn't live through. Yeah. I mean, I lived through Jack Kennedy's murder, and Dr. King's, and all the rest of that. But that's what he has become, or is, and he was simply going to be the next Rush Limbaugh, and maybe go beyond that. And so I don't know. I got music. Great call. Yeah. Thank you, folks on the phones. I apologize because Coming up on the other side for the first time since he had his operation, Steffan Tubbs will be with us and talk about that. It's going to be 81 and sunny. Tomorrow's MC1. Hang on. Saturday morning. It is the September 27th, 2025. Peter Boyles, 710 KNUS Saturday show. Again, a reminder, tomorrow's the MC1 Honor Run. Coming up, Mike Connors with us, investigative reporter, and recently, of course, Robert Redford passed away. But a story that people don't know is that Redford's daughter went to CU, and her boyfriend, a guy named Sid Wells, was murdered, and it's unsolved, and Mike covered the story. Terri Rascon, who is running for Jefferson County School Board, and then Crystal Baldwin, the widow of Dave Baldwin, whose call sign MC1 is the reason all this began. 710 KNUS, I'll just read this to you, then we'll go to Steffan Tubbs. This says to me, it's a text message, Charlie Kirk wasn't screwing his friends' wives or movie stars, you dope. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, he's a great friend. He's been through quite a bit, and we got a picture of him up on the streaming service. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Hotel Smokey the Bear in beautiful downtown Pottstown, Pennsylvania, ladies and gentlemen, Steffan Tubbs. My boy, good morning.
Brother, good morning to you. Good morning to everyone. Good morning to Adam. And this our Saturday morning quickie little segment where two guys that aren't as young as they used to be when they got into radio bitch about all the medical ailments?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I call that. I meet guys, and before we used to talk about, cars or motorcycles or women or the job or something. Now we sit down and we talk about what's wrong with us, And I was at the doctor yesterday. No, it was.
Oh, I know, man. It's great. It's great to be with you, and I appreciate. I know you wanted me on a couple of weeks ago, and just yesterday was on the calendar the 1 month mark since I had prostate cancer surgery, and man, it sucks. It's better to, still be walking. But I mean, if there's anybody, I've told you this off the air, if there's anybody that I cannot complain to about medical ailments, that would be you, since all of the stuff that you've gone through. So I feel like maybe, compared to you, man, I just had a hangnail.
Well, compared to Martino, who, really got shot through the grease, I'm lucky. I mean, I'm an old guy. I was Dr. Prager, my cardiologist, the cardiologist to the stars. I got the clean bill yesterday. So,
oh, that's great.
Well, I don't know. What do I know? Like, we're both on borrowed time. Don't kid yourself.
Well, I think. I'm not to be negative on a Saturday, but everybody listening is on borrowed time.
Sure.
So let's take advantage of it, but. I appreciate the opportunity, Pete, because, it's really the whole kind of way this started for me to talk about it publicly was I think on my second or third fill-in opportunity. And look, I miss radio a lot, not as much, and I've told you this, not as much as I thought I would miss it, but I still missed it. So when Kelly Michaels had asked me earlier this year, hey, Caldera is going to be, he's going to be gone a few of times coming up in the next few months. Would you be interested? And, the government job that I have now, which I absolutely love, they gave me as long as you're not going on the air and representing, the DEA, you can, have at it. So I bring it all up because through the first 6 months of this year, I went from having a physical every year for the last, 25, 30 years, whatever, to earlier this year in my annual physical, my blood work that came back, my primary care doctor said, hey, your PSA level is quite significantly up from, the past few years. She said, it's probably an error. Why don't you come back in? So around late February, I went back in, and the PSA level, which is obviously connected with what your prostate is doing, it had actually increased. And she's like, you need to go. And then, you go through all of the urology appointments and all of this. And then I got the word that, dude, you've got prostate cancer, and it's not good. It's pretty bad. And the reason I kind of go back earlier this year, Pete, is because I remember the second or third time that I filled in for John Caldera on 710. I remember, I think, and Adam would maybe remember more, I think it was either during a commercial break or before the show started, I can't remember, but Adam was there and the great Jim Nichols was there and in the studio, and I said, guys, I found out I have prostate cancer, and I'm wondering, I just want to know, what do you guys think? Should I go public with this in the hopes of getting any man of, 45, 50 or over? I've been pretty public, and so obviously you have your entire life, but most of our adult lives have been in the public. And I remember Adam kind of just saying, I think you got to do it. I mean, it's part of what you do, be an advocate. And, I've taken pride, Pete, in trying to, in my radio career and my media career, to speak up for the little guy, or to take up arms, so to speak, for causes and veterans issues. And I'm like, I'm gonna announce this on the air, and I did sometime in, I guess, August, and then I had the surgery late August, or maybe it was earlier in the summer. But regardless, I'll stop rambling, but only to say that since I made the announcement on KNUS, Pete, more than a dozen men have either reached out and said, what's a PSA level? Or, hey, I'm going to get my appointment and have it checked. So I feel like after that talk at KNUS with both Adam and Jim, and certainly I had you as consult off the air, I really hope that in sharing it, it's not a woe is me. I hope they got it all. I'll find out in a couple of weeks if they did. But to have the ability to, use my voice in the public to maybe make a woman listening, get the old man or get their husband or boyfriend or son or whomever to go get tested, because it's just a blood test. But, 1 in 8 men, Pete, will get prostate cancer before they die. But it's the easiest thing to detect, but it's still, because men, we take care of ourselves in general, really, kind of piss poor. It's the second leading cause of cancer death in men. So I feel like I appreciate the platform, and, I'm not going to lie, man, it has sucked over I'm still really not able to drive, but I'm alive.
When we've been speaking a lot off air, just two friends, two guys, Steffan Tubbs, Peter Boyles, Steffan back. And when you said, and both of us, by the way, because I got a heart valve this year, we both had robots. You had a robot do your surgery.
Isn't that amazing?
Oh, and I mean, for me,
the Da Vinci machine.
the Da Vinci's. And we made jokes. They don't go on strike. They don't want a pay raise. They don't fight with the old lady. Come into work, They
didn't go to happy hour last night.
No. They didn't stay out late, and they're just waiting to go to work. And so, how long was the surgery itself?
I think the surgery was set for, I think, on the calendar up to 3 or 4 hours, and I think, if I remember through the haze, I think it was about a 2.5 hour surgery. I do want to, thank obviously the folks at UC Health. I had it done at UC Health in Highlands Ranch, and just an incredibly positive experience. I think that one of the things, Pete, is just amazing. When I was at KOA, I remember it was probably, I don't know, it must have been at least a decade ago, if not, close to 15 years ago. But I remember getting a press release, and I was doing the morning show over there, but I would still go and do reporting. And I got a press release from, I want to say, Pres St. Luke's Hospital. I don't know why. It may have been UC Health. But they wanted to tout in the media, these new robotic surgeries that they were doing. So here's the irony. Is 10 or 15 years ago, I spent like half a day at a local hospital with a couple of surgeons explaining this new incredible robotic surgery called Da Vinci. And then here, the Da Vinci device, I don't want to be too hyperbolic here, but
great. I mean, I
saved my life. I mean, I'll just say this. I asked the docs, and I don't know if you ever did this, but it's probably part of the morbid media member in me. But I asked, I said, look, if I don't do anything, what's the prognosis?
Sure.
If I just did nothing, they said, you got less than 5 years.
Yeah. No, I mean, Steffan Tubbs, Peter Boyles, first time he's been back on the air since everything that he went through. It's really interesting. I was with Dr. Prager yesterday getting the 3-month checkup, and Nelson Prager is the cardiologist that really is the guy. But when they told me I needed a heart valve, and I was floored because I said, I can't take another chest crack. And, I remember what it was like. And they said, oh, no. And I went down and met the two doctors. One guy's inked up, it's great. And they showed me like this cartoon thing about what's going to happen, and we're not going to crack your chest and all that kind of stuff. And I said, hey, and so yesterday I had a heart murmur, and that's where they found out I had an issue with a heart valve. But yesterday I'm with Dr. Prager. He said, smooth as silk, listening to my heart valve. So
wow,
we're both extremely lucky to be living when we're living. And, I don't know.
Well, I think, Pete, one thing you told me off there, if you don't mind sharing with everybody else, is compare the time that you were on the table that first time to
when I came, actually we had
most recent.
And I think we went with KOA, and I was doing the morning show on KHOW, and we were covering the election swearing in, if you would, of George W. Bush. And my son had been he had been an intern with Tancredo, so he knew the ins and outs of Washington, D.C. And I was feeling really punk, and something was wrong. And so he said, I'll show you a shortcut, Dad. We had to get up on top of this wall and jump over on the other side, and to get to where our seats were. Steph, I jumped, and when I hit the ground, I couldn't move. And
wow.
And so when I got home, I went through all of that stuff, and then they said, we need to crack your chest. And that's where I met Dr. Miller. And I was on the table.
But how many hours was that?
7.5.
Yeah.
And to do a heart valve, 47 minutes. Now it's 26 years later. I had visions of them because I remember reading about they crack your chest, and then they put you on the heart lung, and then they cut out your valve, and they put in they're pig valves is what they put. That's what I thought was going to happen. And I was saying, I don't know, dude. And see, you're 56?
I'm 56, yeah.
Yeah, so you'd have been gone before 60. And
oh yeah.
And think
about, I don't yeah. And I mean I already had, I'm not trying to get too damn personal here, but I had skin cancer earlier this year. I had skin cancer when I was at 710. And so, you start to wonder, but I will say this, two things. Number one, I know you will agree with me until kingdom come, and that is, boy, never take your good health for granted. No. And then number two, do everything in your power to be smart. And that's why I continue, I think probably people at my job now, I've been out of work, about a month, but I saw a lot of my coworkers last night, and those that I hadn't seen in a while, I couldn't remember, but I'm like, every man, I'm like, do you know your PSA number? So I'm Pete, I'm that guy. and yet at the same time, you know what? I will say, and I know it's a family program on a Saturday morning, but I just want to speak specifically to the men who think that in order to get your PSA levels checked, you've got to go through a way that you don't want to go through.
Yeah. That
is not the case. It is a blood test. And so when you're doing your blood panel screening and they're checking this and that, just, any physician worth his or her salt will, if you're of a certain age, you're going to have a PSA level.
Yeah.
But brother, I think you should have between about a 1 and 3 with your PSA level. Say if you're a 55-year-old man, on average between 1 and 3. And by the way, don't take medical advice from me. However, mine went up from about a 5 or a 4 to a 7 in a 3-month period between blood tests. And that's when they're like, dude, you've got to do this. Don't put it off. Pete, there was at one point, earlier this summer, I got four different opinions, just because that's the kind of person I am. Not that I didn't trust the first opinion, but I wanted to get multiple medical opinions. And the second surgeon that I saw at a completely different health system, I said, hey, you know what? Well, if I've got to do this, I've got something really important to do for work in October.
Yeah.
Could I do this in November? And this guy looked at me like I was an a-hole. And he looked at me like I was an idiot. And he's like, he just literally, Pete, in like this dry doctor way, he looked at me and he said, why would you wait until November? You have cancer in your body. We've identified, and you can get it removed. Why would you wait? And I looked at him and I said, sir, you're absolutely right. I'm an idiot.
When they told me they were going to do a quintuple, that's 5, bypasses.
Jeez.
Now, wait a minute. And I said, can't you just do one? Kevin Miller.
That is such a radio guy. Is such a radio guy question.
Trying to hedge it, right? And the guy said, hey, we're going to be there. We're going to be there. But I talked to, you missed because you were out, but the 100th birthday party at KOA. And
no, I was there.
Oh, that's right, you were there. What am I talking about?
Yeah, no, I was there. No, that's fine. That's fine.
Because
I was there, but that's I think also too that night at KOA. I probably told a couple of people, and I'm like, by the way, do you know your PSA number?
Yeah.
And they're like, who is this guy?
Yeah, get away from us. Didn't we get rid of both of you?
No, that remains. I think even we talked about it on the air, because that actually remains. Well, that was one of the highlights of the year. That an event that normally, and no offense to anybody, but radio sometimes things don't go the way that they should. That was one of the events where I'm like, this could get all sorts of stupid and cheap and all of that and ugly, and people were fired. There's Boyles and Tubbs, 2 guys that were axed from KOA, and you know what? That was one of my favorite nights of the year so far.
And everybody was there, and it was guys that got blown out of there, or guys that walked out, and I was there, and it was just the best, and Lee was there, and and there isn't anybody better. But I remember Larson coming into the hospital, and the operation was over, and he was funny because he comes in when you going back to work, Larson. He's just the finest guy probably ever. But I love you, man. And is anything, we got about 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and so what's the prognosis? What happens next?
Well, I'll find out.
We got a. You want to hold? Why don't we do this? Keep him just for another little bit of a segment, and then Mike Connor will be with us. Put him on hold, if you would. Steffan Tubbs, ladies and gentlemen. 710 KNUS 12th annual MC1 Honor Run is Sunday at Columbine High School. 81 will be the high. 55 tonight. 80 on Sunday. 56 tomorrow night. Coming up in studio, Mike Connor is with us on the Redford and Daughters Boyfriend's Killer. And then Terri Rascon's with us, and then Crystal Baldwin, the widow of Dave Baldwin, for the survivors, the 12th annual, named her husband's call sign was MC1. All right, we turn around and come right back at you. Stay here. Morning, everyone. The 27th of September. Mike Connor's coming up. 710 KNUS, 81 the high. Last couple of minutes, and it's so great to have Steffan with us. Steffan Tubbs, of course, went through cancer operations, and I've had so many friends going through this stuff. And you were going to say something, and then we hit the wall. So if you would, Steffan, it's yours.
Thanks, Pete. It's great to be back with you. I appreciate you checking in on me, even the vulgar texts in the middle of the night. No, I'm kidding. But I know you care, and I will just say for, maybe a few of you listening that it has meant so much just to get the positive thoughts and, hey, we're thinking about you. And it's just with this type of cancer, Pete, I just, I feel like, as I said in your first segment, I feel like I've tried to dedicate my media life to, presenting facts, and certainly my last 6 years at KNUS of having a hell of a lot of opinions and stuff like that. But, at the end of the day, no matter what I'm doing, probably till my last breath, I consider myself a newsman. And as part of that, I think we can do, and I wish the media would do better, especially in Denver and Decay, of, being more advocate driven for the right things, not just, whatever. But with this, I just feel like I'm glad I had the talk with your producer, my former producer, Adam and Jim, and they convinced me that, it would be a good idea to, continue kind of who I am on the air. And that is being an advocate for things like veterans and military issues. And in this case now, I just can't emphasize enough, this is one of those things where men, we can't be idiots about this. Women in general take such better care of themselves. They follow up on the doctor's appointments. They do this and with prostate cancer, again, if maybe you're just tuning in, 1 in 8 men will get it, and it doesn't have to be fatal. It's pretty much the most curable. But if you don't, I did, Pete, ask my primary care physician, who I've had literally for 20 years. And one of the questions that I had with her was, if I don't do anything, which is certainly an option,
sure,
what happens? She says, I think you have less than 5 years life expectancy if you don't do anything. And I said, well, I'm going to do something, but I'm just curious, because I'm curious that way. I said, what would happen to the body? And she said, primarily prostate cancer would then go into bladder cancer. It would then go into your kidneys. It gets into your lymph nodes, and then it's into your bones, and it's all over. So I just can't emphasize enough, man. I appreciate the opportunity and the time to men get the blood test, and it can save your life. And I don't mean to be, again,
listen,
overly dramatic, but it's true.
You paid your dues. Got a lot of text messaging, but I'll just give you this one. Peter, I'm glad Steffan did not air his surgery live. That was a great one.
Listen,
That's
you
great.
and I both, that's funny. You and I both have worked with sales executives that if they could have made some money on it, they would have done it live.
More than people know. More than people will ever know. Oh boy!
I love you, brother.
I love you, brother.
To everybody listening, I want to say thank you to my pal. I just got a text from David Kale over at KOA. I love him. Patrick Neville just texted. Patrick, shout out to you, Patriot, and to Kevin out at Lake McConaughey, brother. Love you too. Former DPD, long time. And I'll see you coming up in a couple of weeks.
I promise. You the man. Thanks, Steph.
Thanks,
Bye.
man.
Bye,
Take care.
Steffan Tubbs. All right, everybody, 710 KNUS Denver's talk station. Mike Connors and I go back a long way. He was investigative reporter. He's been with us once before on telling stories, and he's just really a terrific and talented guy. And so he called me after Robert Redford died, and I don't know if I remember it or not. Now, since I've looked, I said, oh, yeah, sure, but Robert Redford's daughter went to see you. Mike Connors, good morning, man. Thanks.
Good morning, Peter. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, we just got to mic you up. Tell the story. I think it's really interesting in the light of we lose Robert Redford, but just tell the story.
Yeah, it really is interesting that this story again becomes alive because of Robert Redford's connection to it. And if it weren't for that connection, this story would have died a long, long time ago. But when I went to see you, Robert Redford's daughter was a classmate of mine, and she was dating a guy named Sid Wells.
By the way, did you know she was Redford's daughter?
You know, I didn't know her. I mean, I knew of her, though. I mean, you can't have somebody that famous. And, of course, occasionally Robert Redford would come on campus, and people would go nuts when they'd see him on campus. And he did deliver the commencement address when I graduated. So he was infinitely involved, and he loved Boulder. And as you know, he just moved the Sundance Film Festival.
I just
Boulder.
watched Downhill Racer 2 nights ago. And that's when Robert Redford plays the downhill racer, and they do stuff at CU, and then his hometown, although you know it, is right up I-70, and they use this for a backdrop for him coming home to see his father, who doesn't care about him, and it's called Downhill Racer. It's a great film, but go ahead. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, and so. He was kind of a part of our lives because of that. And Sid Wells, I knew a little bit because he was a classmate of mine in journalism. He was a year behind me.
Her boyfriend.
That was her boyfriend.
Were they engaged?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and apparently he became very close to Robert Redford. Robert Redford saw him like a son.
Okay.
And Robert Redford, when he was killed, stayed involved in that. For the rest of his life.
He hired you?
Yes.
Okay, continue.
Yeah. And part of his involvement was with me, trying to solve the problem. And the problem was, and this will seem very familiar to you, Peter, the police didn't handle the original investigation.
The Boulder
right.
cops?
Yeah, can you imagine?
Hard to believe.
Yeah. And so it's pretty obvious who did it.
You say you know who did it?
Yeah. I mean, I always hate to say somebody did for sure when there hasn't been a trial and they haven't been found guilty. That's that journalist to me.
Patsy Ramsey did it, and there wasn't a trial, and it doesn't trouble me.
It does me. I'm kind of old-fashioned that way. Okay. I want to say for sure.
Well, the grand jury wanted to indict them both, and that's close enough for government work.
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
That and hand grenades.
Yeah.
So anyway, what happened was that Sid and his brother had a condo, and they had a roommate named Thane Smyka. And Thane was a problematic roommate. He was a small-time drug dealer. He had some cocaine issues. And he wrote a note saying, "Hey, I'm going to my parents' house. I'll be gone a few days." And Sid's brother was out camping, and he comes back. Sid's dead.
How was he killed?
He was shot with a shotgun from the back of the head, laying on his living room floor, most likely killed execution style.
Oof.
Couldn't be any worse.
This is Robert Redford's daughter's fiance.
Yeah.
Who Robert Redford cared about.
Great deal.
Okay.
So Thane then drives to his mother's house. And the timing of this is perfect. If he had done
where does his mother live?
Eastern Colorado,
okay.
Maybe Fort Collins area, something like that. And drives to the house, allegedly covered in blood. Okay. And he washes his clothes. Okay. So
How long was Sid dead before they found him?
Only an hour.
Oh, okay.
So it was quick. His brother came in, found him dead, called the cops, of course. And there was a note from Sid saying, "Hey, you need to pay the rent." Apparently this guy owed $300 and wasn't great at paying the rent on time. Go figure. But whether that's a motive for killing or not, I kind of doubt that. That seems pretty weak. And he'd had a history of being late with the rent. So the police see the note, and they go to the mother's house. This is in the evening. By then, Thane has, washed his clothes. And Thane proceeds to tell a story. And what he says is that he had a whole bunch of money, large amount of money, and cocaine.
It was in the product, in the Coke.
The product and the Coke, he says he has. He claims that it belonged to Sid Wells, and he claims that he took this out of the apartment so that somebody wouldn't steal it from Sid Wells. Wow. Are you buying any of this?
No, but
okay.
No, but it's me.
Well, apparently the Boulder PD bought it hook, line, and sinker.
No.
Yeah.
So when did Redford, after that, then when does Redford get a hold of you or hire you?
Okay, let me follow with this just a little bit more. Okay, so they take him into protective custody. I don't think they checked him for residue. I mean, if he had shot a gun, even if he had showered, there would have been some residue.
Yeah.
Because the police, I don't know how you could possibly be so gullible. Here, first of all, the guy has possession of cocaine and money. Charge him with that. At least get a charge. I mean,
sure.
By his own words, and he's showing it to you.
He showed them the Coke.
Yeah, I mean, they arrest him and they let him go because the DA said, well, they don't have enough evidence. This should all sound very familiar to you. Okay, this is like before the Ramsey case, but it's the same exact problems. Different story, different situation, but same problems.
With all the stroke that Robert Redford had, our guest is Mike Connors, talking about Robert Redford's daughter's boyfriend being killed and what happened. When does Redford get involved? I mean, he's got to see holes in this.
He's involved immediately. In fact, he was starting to film the movie The Natural, which, of course, is one of his biggest films.
Yeah, it's a great film.
They stopped production.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Redford came and was there. The mother of Sid Wells loved Shauna Redford.
She's got to be
a daughter she never had.
Well, how old are you now?
I'm 66.
Okay, so she's in her 60s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the mother, she just to the day that she died, she said, "Shauna's my daughter-in-law. I love her." I think she was kind of like everybody's mom, that kind of lady.
Yeah.
And so Redford wanted justice, same as anybody, and it gets very frustrating because things let go. Why is he let go if they found him with if they didn't have the evidence yet?
And money and drugs.
He had money and drugs.
Yeah.
But let me give you another angle on this, and that's yours truly. On the day that he died, I was with the Denver Post. I did the most extensive research that had ever been done on cocaine cases. I looked at every drug case for several years in every county in Denver Metro. I was up in Boulder seeing how Alex Hunter handled these cases on the day that he dies. Okay. I'm showing you the articles.
Yeah.
Okay. Written by Nancy Weaver, who was a Pulitzer Prize winner.
I remember Nancy Weaver, sure.
I worked very closely with Nancy on a lot of stories. She's taken my research, and this is what we found. Okay, the law said that you had to get at least 2 years if you had a certain amount of cocaine.
Sure.
Not if you had a little tiny bit that you were using, but if you had enough for sale. And
they were called major peddlers.
Yeah. You were supposed to get a minimum of 2 years. In Boulder, nothing.
You got nothing?
I mean, everybody that was caught, and you had, pot-smoking DA, Alex Hunter. The deal was he'll leave your drugs alone. I mean, that's why people elected him. I mean, this was hippie. This is, I want to smoke my doobie, and I want to have my fun, and I don't want the DA messing with me. That was the way Boulder was. Probably still is in many ways. But I nailed Hunter. And so we posted the research. This is about 3 months after Sid is dead. There were 2 other murders that month, cocaine-related in Boulder. So you got 3 murders in Boulder in 1 month, all coke-related. And one they claimed was a suicide because the guy's throat was slit. Well, people don't kill themselves by slitting their throat.
No, they don't.
That's what the police said. So you've got this... The problems that you see later were all on display here. Okay? Different people, different situations.
What year are we talking about? What year was this?
1983.
So 83, Let me reset this. Mike Connors is here. Robert Redford's daughter's boyfriend is killed. And we got a minute till the turnaround, and then we've got a break coming. And the man that you say is the killer, was the killer, or you think is the killer, he's now dead.
Oh, no.
Oh, he's alive.
Oh, yeah.
Well, do we know where he is?
No.
So he's MIA.
He's been out on the loose for 42 years.
Sounds like that insanity in Weld County where they let that guy. This is nuts. So he really is still alive. He's somewhere. Best
As
of your
far
knowledge.
as we know, his family claims he's dead, but of course they're going to claim
Well,
that.
that's what I looked at. And his
you know.
family, I thought he was dead because his family said he was dead.
No. And the cops, David Hayes, who was somebody really sincere that tried to.
Let me do this. I'm getting the signal. All right, sit still. Mike Connors is here. Peter Boyles, 710 KNUS. Terri Rascon coming up. Crystal Baldwin, Dave Baldwin's widow. MC1 is tomorrow. It's a good show. Everyone stand by, 710 KNUS.
Your 710 5-day forecast going to be a beautiful Saturday with mostly sunny skies. Highs upper 70s and low 80s. Partly cloudy tonight, lower to mid 50s. Morning sun, then a few more clouds Sunday afternoon. Right around 80 for a temp with lows lower 50s. Some showers may pass through the metro Sunday night with additional light showers and thunder during the day Monday. Highs upper 70s, low 80s. Sunny and dry for Tuesday. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call 720-851-1691 or visit them online at besteverhvac.com. Meteorologist Don Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Saturday morning. Saturday, September 27, 2025. Here it is. Fair change your mind. 710 KNUS, 81 the high, 55 tonight, 80 tomorrow. Great guest in studio, Mike Connors, talking off air and on air about this Robert Redford story. Real quickly, David Ellis Jewelers. You've heard me about taking your valuables to David to get a fortune in cash and secure an appraisal from David. He's there now in his store. All the valuables you have tucked away in your home, and it's still true. Share another reason to see David, just in case you don't have a Rolex watch, rare coins, or a silver tea set. You see David for all the most meaningful gift-giving occasions. David Ellis Jewelers, just the right items, just the right price for all the special people that mean the most. Antique watches, emerald pendants, gold necklaces, diamond rings. Remember, the gift-giving season isn't that far away. We're almost to October, and then here it comes. Trusted jeweler David's been buying precious metals and antiques in Colorado for decades. Dazzling cases filled with hundreds of new and used pieces your loved ones will treasure. Visit, see the man, David Ellis. See for yourself the black awning on the corner of 3rd and Clayton. He's got a black awning on the store, 3rd and Clayton and Cherry Creek. He's there now. He's there 6 days a week. DavidEllisJewelry.com. You'll be glad. See my friend David Ellis at 303-322-8779. 303-322-8779. And tell David Peter Boyles sent you. Mike Connors is with us in studio. If you missed it, just a quick recap. Robert Redford's daughter attended CU Boulder. She had a boyfriend, and her boyfriend was murdered, and it's still an unsolved case. And we were talking off air the work that you did with a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter. Pick it there.
Yeah, that's Nancy Weaver.
Yeah.
And Nancy won the Pulitzer Prize in 1993, or 83 rather. And she had her choice of any newspaper in the. Your ticket's written.
Sure.
And she was one of the first women to get it for investigative reporting, and not like for photography, but for being a hardcore investigative reporter. She wanted to come to the Post, and so she joined the team that I was a part of, and so she was just extraordinary in every way. I can't think of a better reporter.
And she was on to this.
She was onto this because I've been doing this research. I spent months and months and months looking at every drug case. You have no idea what it's like being in the bowels of the city and county building day in and day out.
And the
mold. Back then it was full of mold and asbestos. Everybody's nose was running. Everybody that worked there was terrible. But I'm looking at every case. I'm doing the most extensive research on this at the time that Sid is killed. So now suddenly the Post is like, and then we had 2 other people killed in Boulder. So peaceful Boulder suddenly has 3 murders on their hand in 1 month. One where it was a slit throat. They claimed that's a suicide. Come on, give me a break. So anyway, you got 3. So Alex Hunter can't just keep, doing what he did. I don't know how much pot that guy smoked, but I imagine it was quite a bit.
How did you know? You said that during on air, and I'm thinking, how do you know Alex Hunter smoked?
He was head of Normal. The organization.
Oh, I remember Normal.
You remember Normal?
Sure.
He was head of it.
He was?
He was head. He was on the board of directors, and I think at one point he was president nationwide of Normal.
But you said smoked. Did he?
Well, I mean, that's what everybody believed. The deal was you hire this guy, and people used to walk around Boulder smoking joints because they know the police weren't going to do anything.
But you got to be careful right now because you said he smoked pot.
You're right.
You got to be
I don't know for sure. I'll bet you somewhere he admitted to it. But you're right. I don't.
Be careful.
But he's head of Normal.
Yeah.
So anyway, he wants to legalize drugs.
Either way, but smoked.
Okay.
Eek.
Okay. Stand corrected.
Yeah.
Thank you. The situation is that the Boulder police, the detectives, you get what you get. You got a case where the evidence has problems, and so now they've got to try and make a case. But for some reason, they didn't go after him on drugs, and the Denver Post had provided all the stuff to pressure Alex to have taken a case like Sid. The pressure was there because Thane claimed that he was a drug dealer. I don't think he was. I think Thane was making this up. I think it was Thane's drugs and Thane's money, not Sid Wells. But that was something that needed to be investigated, because if it was a drug-related killing, then there might be someone in addition to Thane, or he claimed he named somebody that he thought maybe did it, and it was all made up. But for some reason, the police bought this and didn't do what they should have done. Now, they did take him into protective custody.
How long did they keep him?
Just a few days.
Okay.
Protected,
No, I know what that means.
Yeah. So they have a case problem, and the DA gets this mess and says we can't prosecute it. Sound familiar? So
did the grand jury ever look at this?
No.
Okay.
And so this goes on and on and on. Thane gets another case against him years later. He allegedly embezzled some money from his employer, and then he disappears, and that's 86, and he hasn't been seen since then, although there have been reports. I mean, this story was huge. This was on 48 Hours. This has been on, all the television networks. Sid was an intern at KMGH TV.
So we're coming up on time. So it's allegedly unsolved. What happened to Robert Redford's daughter? Where did she go?
Well, she finished college and she married a famous author, the guy who did Fast Food Nation.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Eric Schlosser, I think is his name.
Yeah.
And he actually was president of NBC at one point.
I thought so.
It sounds like she likes writers, She likes journalists. She likes writers.
Okay.
So you have this thing, it just sits and it sits and it sits.
How old was Sid Wells when he was murdered?
22.
And she was a kid, too. And then you were a kid. You were a kid.
I was a year older than them.
And so now it's an unsolved. They must have a hell of a cold case file up there.
You would think.
Yeah.
You would think so. And so, after time went on, and see, a few years later, okay, I left the Denver Post. I went into television, worked in that for a couple of years. I'm back in Boulder.
Right.
And Jane Craycraft had been a Denver Post reporter.
Yeah, sure.
Very good. She was the Boulder reporter. She was also a professor at CU. And she was one of Sid Wells's professors. She knew him quite well, thought he was a bright student, took a real personal interest in him, took him out on stories. And so, she took him under her wings. So she knew him. And Robert Redford got tired of no answer here. No answer here. No charges. Where's Thane? I mean, we all think we know who did it, but, you need a trial and you need, the evidence played out. So he hired Jane's partner. Jane had since left the Post and became a private investigator. And Jane is extraordinary at this. She's one of the best ever. And she worked with Bob Brown.
I know Bob Brown.
Well, there's two Bob Browns.
Oh, okay.
This is the Bob Brown that worked for the Bob Brown
you know. I think I knew him, but I really knew Bob Brown.
Yeah, well, Bob Brown being, of course, the editor of the Soldier of Fortune.
Owner of Soldier of Fortune.
Right.
Yeah.
And whenever Bob Brown had a problem that he couldn't solve, he called the other Bob Brown.
I know them. Yeah.
And if I were to describe the
We got a minute left.
Okay. Think of, Pulp Fiction, the wolf.
Oh, yeah.
That's who
Mr.
I think
Wolf.
of when I see Bob Brown.
Remember
He's
me?
got the style,
Mr. Wolf.
Yeah, that's who I think of when I think of Bob Brown.
So, real quickly, because we're coming to an end with Mike Connors, unsolved, but solved.
Yeah, I mean, they finally, it took 25 years before they could get a warrant put together for the arrest. So when we come back, I'll explain that.
Well, we're hitting the wall. Let me do it. We'll keep Mike on the other side for a short amount of time, and then we'll bring in our other guest, Terri Rascon, who's running for Jefferson County School Board. And then coming up, Crystal Baldwin, Dave Baldwin's widow. It's a Saturday morning, and I'm Peter Boyles. Stay right here. believe it. Good morning again, everyone, on a Saturday, September 27th, 2025. Good old 710 KNUS, the voice of the people. Going to be 81 today, says the 710 KNUS Weather Center. 55 tonight, and then tomorrow's MC1 Honor Run, 80 degrees, and 56 tomorrow night, and come back to work on Monday. So the MC1 Honor Run, which put a year work in every year, 12th annual MC1 Honor Run motorcycle fundraiser begins tomorrow. And as they say, the doors open. Registration begins about 8 in the morning. I'll be down early with Frank and everybody else. So coming up at noon, Crystal Baldwin. And Crystal is the widow of Dave Baldwin, who the MC1, that was his call sign, Motorcycle One, why it all began for the survivors. And so we have that to come. Mike Connors is with us in studio, and then Terri Rascon, who's running for Jefferson County School Board, will be in the studio with us next. So there we go. I'm going to have Mike, because people drop off shows and join shows. And Mike is investigative reporter and did the story. He was a young guy of Robert Redford's daughter's boyfriend's killer. And the similarities in some other stories are striking about what happened in Boulder. But picking up, this young man's name was Sid Wells. Redford liked him. He was going to marry Redford's daughter, and this guy is murdered in his condo.
Right, in his condo, allegedly by his roommate, who was a low-level drug dealer.
But it all falls apart.
It all falls apart, and the police believed the crazy excuses that the drug dealer made, so they didn't gather as much evidence as they could have. It gets to the DA's office, Alex Hunter, who's, as we all know, is gun shy, pretty gun shy. But at the same time, as I was telling you, I was with the Denver Post, and I was investigating Hunter at the time all this happened for being so lenient. And he was, by law, if you were caught with a certain amount of cocaine for sale, 2 years automatic.
Oh, yeah, bingo.
We found, on average, 0 time in jail. They were doing what's called a deferred sentencing or a deferred adjudication, so they could get out of putting them in jail. So you get a walk. You get a cakewalk.
Bill Ritter and I were very close friends until what happened, and they were giving agricultural trespasses to illegal aliens, drug dealers. And in fact, the story that broke the friendship was this guy was an illegal. He was a heroin dealer, and they caught him. The narcs caught him, and he got an ag trespass. And I remember making the joke that I'd driven around Denver, couldn't find a farm. And he took off, went to California, went to San Francisco, and molested a little girl. And that started so many different things that ended up in a bad place and ended a close friendship. But the fact of the matter is, you were giving those trespasses ag trespass. And so I think, and that's when Denver became a sanctuary city, and we put up the billboard, "Relax, you made it." And it was an interesting time for us in doing the business and the job business. But that, and then eventually we end up with the Ramsey case, and I told you, being asked to come into his office, and he had a framed portrait of JonBenet behind him.
Well, and then Chuck Green, you remember, my old boss, who I really liked and had a great relationship. But as he got farther down the road, you remember he wrote some stupid poem to JonBenet, an ode to JonBenet, and that was about the end of it. It's like,
there was a lot of end of it on that. But
but I mean, that was absolutely beyond the pale.
No, there was so much. That book has not been written.
Right. Well, and the problem that we have in Boulder is that a lot of people did write books, and they are more interested in writing books than they are in doing a good job investigating cases, in my view. So I have a strong view on that. But what happened is that this became a worldwide story when Sid was killed, and it's become worldwide again in the last 2 weeks
since Redford passed.
Redford's passing ignited it.
That's why you're here.
If I gave you this a month ago, you'd be like, Mike, that's kind of old.
Come on. No, that's why you're here.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. And so,
when did Redford give up on this, or did he
never?
Never.
If you want to say what was one of the man's dying wishes, this was probably it. You know, I mean, I don't think that would be an overstatement. And he stayed involved. In fact, the reason they finally, after 25 years, the reason they finally were able to get, a warrant for his arrest, because Redford called the new DA and said, is there anything he didn't call the police, so you got to think about that.
Called the Boulder DA.
The new Boulder DA, Grinnell or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
And said, is there anything you could, this was the 25th anniversary of Sid's death. So, his daughter marks the anniversary every year with Sid's mother and brother. I mean, there was a real connection here. This wasn't just some casual.
So Redford makes the phone call. I'm imagining you're sitting there. Robert Redford's on line too.
Exactly.
You're going to take the call.
Well, imagine how I felt when it's like, Robert Redford wants to hire you?
Yeah.
What?
Really?
Yeah, and so to go back to what my involvement in this case was, first it was as a journalist pressuring Hunter to do his job.
And they never did.
No, but he sure, we had him on a tight leash for a short time there because of my research. My research on the drugs.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sid dies, national story. And of course who doesn't want to prosecute this thing and get, I mean, of course Hunter did. And same way with Ramsey. He would have wanted to, but he wants to make sure he's going to win. And that was part of his problem. But the thing is that I was brought in, so Bob Brown, who I jokingly called the Wolf, but he's a good cop and retired cop and very well dressed and groomed. And when he walks in the room, this guy's the guy in charge. Robert Redford hires him. So he does all of his checking. So who are you going to get? You get Bob Brown, you get Jane Craycraft, and you get Mike Connors. We were Robert Redford's team to solve this case.
And you solved it. You think you did?
No.
Well.
No, Peter. We got threatened by the Boulder police.
Oh, I didn't.
They wouldn't let us.
Well,
they demanded that we resign immediately. Demanded it.
I didn't know that part of that.
Yeah. So we're sitting here 42 years later. It's older and older and older. And there was, and I talked to Jane about it. She goes, be nice, be nice. I go, I'll try. But one cop, David Hayes, really cared, and he became deputy chief of police, and he went on to be chief of police in Longmont. Yeah. And he became friends of June Munger. He called her once a month, every month until she died like 10 years ago. He's the good guy. But another cop on that force, here's Bob Brown.
Careful.
Yeah, I'm not going to give names.
All right.
Okay. The other cop on that force said, you will not investigate this. Well, first of all, I think there's something called the First Amendment. As citizens, do not the Redfords and the Wells have the right to investigate the murder of her own son? I mean, she was involved in retaining us. And we all had to back off because they said they would destroy our reputations. They would blame us.
You were told that?
Yeah. I wasn't there, but I know how mad Bob was. Jane took it in stride. I was furious because I wanted to do this.
This is threats.
But they basically said, you will not do this investigation. That's it. Because we will blame you if we don't get a good outcome on this. What already been messed up?
Did Redford know this?
Yeah, and that's why he backed off.
So
we had to back off.
So then later, Redford calls the new DA.
Yeah, he doesn't call the police for good reason.
Okay.
Even though some of the cops, like David Hayes, good guy, and he wanted to get this done. Other people did.
One Boulder cop's life destroyed.
Yeah.
In this case.
Yeah. But somebody else in there
that was in the Ramseys.
And they didn't want any outside help. But it was already messed up. This is well into it. And, we weren't going to step on any toes. The reason that the meeting was held was so that we didn't step on anybody's toes. It's just like, we're here. If we develop any information, it's yours.
So you guys shut down, and then Redford calls. What happens
Yeah,
then?
Redford calls 20-something years later. Yeah. After all the frustration.
Sure.
Imagine the frustration.
Sure.
Now, in the meantime, the mother, June Menger, I think she came up with the solution. She went to the city council in 1998, and she said, I don't want a grand jury. She knew enough about Boulder that she kind of figured a grand jury might not be the answer. She had a different answer. She called for a special prosecutor. I don't want a grand jury.
Outside of Boulder.
Outside of
That's
Boulder.
where special
She called on
prosecutors,
Governor Romer.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that she was joined by Fleet White, associated with the Ramseys, calling for...
The only guy to ever go to jail in the Ramsey case, Fleet White.
Calling for not a grand jury. Because, I mean, we look back now, the grand jury didn't work.
Well, it did work. Alex Hunter didn't work.
Yeah, but the problem is Alex Hunter's the guy who had to do the prosecution.
No, but the grand jury did. I mean, in fairness, what this is Mike Connors, investigative reporter, talking about Robert Redford's daughter's fiance being murdered, but we're all over the boards. The grand jury, and this is what is so despicable about having John Ramsey come to CrimeCon with Paula Woodward and talk about the innocence. I mean, the grand jury that saw everything, i.e., about the Ramsey murder. They saw stuff that I never saw. I certainly never saw. And they heard people testify that I never myself ever heard testify. Their conclusion was, we want to indict John and Patsy for the murder of their daughter. Get them both.
Well, more the cover-up. It was the lesser charge. It was the cover-up of the murder, basically.
But they still were who they were. And so with Paula Woodward and all these people running around and John's proclamation, remember, they wanted to indict John and Patsy.
But think of it this way. It still had to be tried by Alex Hunter.
Oh, no, of course. And Alex Hunter, when they gave him that true bill, and he walked out into that Justice Center courtyard and name drop, I'm sitting there with Geraldo because he'd been in town waiting for this. And when he said they weren't, I mean, it felt like somebody just kicked you. Because just what I knew, and that's when I totally thought a total mistrust of the Boulder Department of Justice or whatever you want to call it.
And that's what I'm getting at, Peter. It's that the only way we're ever going to see justice is to get it out of Boulder completely.
Well,
I don't see any other way.
I saw Bill Owens and those guys, and everybody said, who did it.
That's what June came up with in 1998. Get it out of Boulder. Not a grand jury by Hunter. Get it out of Boulder. Get a special prosecutor or get DOJ. Something outside of Boulder.
Okay, so we're coming up on time.
Yep.
I got a guest sitting here. What happened? The end of it is that now with Redford's death, the FBI has put out a $25,000 reward. There is a current warrant out for the arrest of Thane Smyka. So if anybody could find this guy. Oh, so he's not, his family's saying he's dead. You don't believe he's dead?
No, and neither does David Hayes.
They don't believe he's dead?
No, none of us believe it. So I would like to see, you want the bottom line?
Yeah.
If I could get the magic wand and wave it, by the time the Sundance Film Festival opens in Boulder, Colorado in 2027.
In honor to Robert Redford.
In honor of Robert Redford, who made it happen. I'd like to see some justice in this. I'd like to see somebody find this guy and bring him to trial. And if he's guilty, then
so be it.
So be it. If he's not, then let him prove his, let the evidence speak for what it is.
You're going to do another story for us soon. Mike Connors, special guest, former investigative reporter on Redford's daughter's boyfriend's killer. And it's a bigger story than that.
The answer is the same on both of these. Get it out of the hands of Boulder. They fumbled all of these things one way or another. It's a toxic combination.
Well, when Dave Mashad offered his murder cops, and I've talked to two of them, to go to Boulder, they wouldn't let them in. And I real quickly, final anecdotal statement. The FBI they have a civilian school and they pick out guys and ask them if you want to go once a week. And they asked me, and I went. And they had guys come in and lecture on, counterfeiting, and everything. And they came in on kidnapping. It was two FBI agents. And I said, I was going to, and he looked at me. He said, "We were talking about the Ramsey." He said, "That ain't no whodunit." It's good to have you on the show. You made it happen.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank Mike. 710 KNUS. We are Denver's talk station. Coming up in studio, Terri Rascon, who's running for Jefferson County School Board. She has some things to say about what happened at Evergreen High School, so we invited her in. And then Crystal Baldwin's on the show. This is one of those mornings that just feels good. It's beautiful outside. I rode in. 81 will be the high. Tomorrow, 80 for the MC1 Honor Run, and then 78 degrees on Monday. So, Adam, can we pull the pin early, or can we not? 2 minutes? Fair enough. What I'll do is I'll do a commercial, and that'll take up 2 minutes. That we'll do it right. I'm happy today to talk to you about our friends, and I got this system at the house, so it's Water Pros. Water Pros takes care of the quality of your water. You can remove forever chemicals and microplastics and hard water with Water Pros. And they have, believe it or not, the Peter Boyles Special. And you get a whole water softener and point-of-use reverse osmosis drinking water system fully installed. They really are terrific. These guys come to the house. Number one thing, and take it on this, they give you a test, and you can, obviously be home. They come and test your water. They show the results, and they answer all your questions and concerns about your water. That's free. So whether you move on and take the system or just have the test done, take it. Let them know. Come to your house. Why not? Find out. Test your water and answer all your questions and concerns about your water. I trust these guys. We have the system. Water Pros is a family-owned, veteran-owned business dedicated to providing you the best in water treatment for far less than the other guys. Here's the number. Just call them up today or call them up on Monday, 303-862-5554, 303-862-5554, and ask for, I love this, the Peter Boyles Special. Waterpros.net is their website, but take the gimme. Take the test. It's a free one. It's a gift. 303-862-5554. Okay. This woman is talking. She's retired military, and the situation in Evergreen. We're going to focus on that, and then Crystal will be on the show. We'll wrap it up in open lines. 303-696-1971, 81 and sunny, 80 in the for MC1 and 78 on Monday. You ready? Hit the button. We come back. Stay here. 710 KNUS, Denver's talk station. I'm Peter Boyles on a Saturday. 81 will be the high and 80 on Sunday. MC1 Honor Run is coming up tomorrow. Welcome in studio. First time I met her, and the stories about what happened at Jefferson County High School, Evergreen High School in Jefferson County. And Terri Rascon is with us. And first of all, good morning. Thanks for coming into studio. It's good to have you here.
Thank you so much, Peter.
And the shooting in the Evergreen High School has triggered so many reactions. You're nodding your head. Speak to it, and because we haven't had a chance really to talk. So your thoughts about what happened there, and then why you're running for school board, because I'm told you really have a dog in the fight.
Yeah, well, the Evergreen shooting took place on September 10th. It seems like yesterday.
Yeah.
2 students were shot. 3 people were transported. The shooter died that day. And I just want to say to the people of Evergreen, I am just so grateful that they have wrapped their arms around that high school. We have a lot of heroic people there.
That I was told one of the kids that was shot was charging the shooter.
Yes, we've got 2 students who are warning everybody all about what was going on. And one was 18-year-old Matthew Silverstone.
Yeah.
He's in the hospital right now. He's suffering. He's getting better. And we have another 14-year-old.
It's a young woman, isn't it?
No,
2
a
boys?
little boy.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't know his name, but he's also healing. It's sad what happened, but this gives me hope for the future. The kids in the school were just amazing.
Did they? I mean, I have lots of sources, and there are people that told me that that shooter had a revolver with I have no business talking about firearms, had a 2-inch barrel, and that he fired, reloaded, fired again, and then finally took his own life. Did he get that many shots off?
Yes. According to the sheriffs, he did. He was firing, reloading, it took about 9 minutes and 20 rounds. If we would have had an SRO, a school resource officer, a law enforcement agent, a lot could have been avoided.
I agree.
Yeah,
and Jefferson County School Board does not want teachers or don't want people armed, do they, or don't they?
They don't.
That's what I thought.
They don't. It's sad. For me, priority number 1 is putting student safety first. It's leadership. It's not about what you say. It's about what you fix.
Oh, absolutely.
And if we would have had an SROs, school resource officer,
come out and banged them.
They deter things from happening. First of all,
agreed.
They're in the schools. They're talking to the kids. They're monitoring. They're law enforcement agencies.
Absolutely.
Law enforcement officer first, but they also got a dog in the fight too.
Sure.
They're talking to the kids. They see somebody with mental health issues. They're going to stop, talk to them, counsel them. They're going to stop things from happening.
Did they know, the best of your knowledge? I mean, I've heard that this was a very strange kid and that other people knew it. And a good friend of mine told me that his daughter went to school with him, and that they knew him, and they knew that he was, and look, you know, you want to jacket some kid in school, but they knew something was wrong. These were the other kids. And he had the revolver, and I haven't read anything where he got the gun. Does anyone know where he got the gun?
None of that has been released, but yes, a lot of kids said that there was concerning, disturbing behavior.
Yeah, no, I've been told all of that.
And nobody said anything. There's something else that we're not using, and it's called Safe to Tell.
Yeah.
It's a hotline, and I don't know if parents are using it or teachers, students, but if you see something like that happening, you need to call the Safe to Tell hotline and talk about the concerning behavior. If we had an SRO too, the kids could have gone to the police officer and said, hey, this kid, he doesn't seem right. Let's do something about it.
Or he's out there with a gun.
Right.
And I'm told that he was thankfully, a terrible shot. And I've talked with so many people that I respect, and no firearms with 2-inch barrel is a very poor choice. But he fired. It was a 5-shot. Was what I was told. Were you told that?
I believe that's what it was, but
Yeah.
aiming, you can't.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But he emptied the revolver, reloaded, emptied the revolver, and reloaded.
Shot, reload,
Yeah.
9 minutes.
Is that what it?
20 rounds.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the kids that were running around? And
No, he was.
had we had an SRO, a sheriff in there, a law enforcement officer, he could have stopped that from
An
happening.
armed janitor. I mean, I don't care.
He could have stopped that from happening. He could have called backup
Yeah.
and stopped it.
Yes.
And had the guy in handcuffs by the time everybody got here.
Totally agreed. If you just tuned in studio, Terri, and her last name is spelled Rascon, and she's running for Jefferson County School Board, but she really wanted to talk about why, and this is your District 5, do I remember that?
District 5, correct.
November
in
4th
Jefferson County.
November 4th is the election, and you can open. We got the phone lines open if you wish them. 303-696-1971. If you have a question you'd like to ask, 303-696-1971. We're focusing on that horrible Evergreen shooting, and once again, it's Jefferson County, and I'll see a lot of these guys tomorrow at MC1, and they know. I mean, the cops know, but just what they talk about this stuff. If we were there,
They do.
and they came like the wind anyhow. But thank God this kid's a lousy shot, and it's not the right gun.
And thank God that the community was able to react. But I don't want to stay stagnant and
I understand.
say everybody did the right thing, because I feel this was a leadership failure. We should have put safety first.
I agree.
We should have had
Especially
an
now.
officer there present, because they would deter it. If
Sure.
they could have stopped this kid from doing what he did, it could have never happened.
No.
Or they could have found it in his backpack.
Sure.
It would have been stopped much sooner.
We collectively, in terms of private education, in terms of education, when Charlie Kirk got killed, assassinated, he was in a university campus. All of this insanity, slip your headsets on, people want to talk to you, please. Okay. All of this insanity, logic can stop this. Just if you want to be anti-gun, that's fine. Don't own one, But when it comes to knowing that you're going to deal with this insanity, that people come on school campuses or whatever they do, rise up, stop it. I mean, it makes no sense to me, and I don't know how. That's away from this topic, but how much Charlie Kirk had for people, or even the attempt on Trump, the one when Trump shot through the ear. I mean, it's like, come on, this isn't that tough.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. All right, we go to the phones. Throw some names up there, and we'll get some callers on. 303-696-1971. All right, we go to Brett. Brett, you're on the radio show. I'm Peter Boyles. With us in studios, Terri Rascon. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Pete. Good to hear your voice, brother. I haven't seen you in a while.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Call in and touch base on that. We've done a lot of stuff together over the years, but the school safety guys. It's there's so much more that we can do. I spent 30 years in law enforcement, and
I know this guy.
Seeing these tragedies.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I know.
We got to hook up again, brother.
Sunday.
But yes, sir.
No, but I mean, from the perspective of the men and women with badges, and you hear the Evergreen story. I mean, why when you go into a bank, is there a guy in there with a gun? Why when you go into a fire? Nobody ever goes in and shoots up a reserve military headquarters, nobody ever shoots up a gun shop. Nobody ever shoots up Why is that? Because there's guys in there with guns.
Exactly. So I'm a huge fan of Laura Carno and the FASTER program. And, Pete, I sat on a panel, a school board panel over safety. And there was a parent that was very hesitant to even bring up guns in school and arming teachers and staff. And, and I asked her point blank, I said, listen, God forbid, and I pray this never happens again, but I think we all know better. And I said, hey, what if that gunman walked into your child's classroom? Then would you want that teacher to be armed? And you should have seen the light bulb go off.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what we have to think about. Good guys with guns is the absolute best way to stop bad guys with guns.
And frankly, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but that's the conclusion. That if there, he was a K-9 guy, and he was with Denver School Safety, and that's how I've been to his home, and we go back. But the answer is obvious,
Yes.
And everything I heard from some people that and Terri backs it up. This kid reloaded 3 times.
Yep. Yeah. There's nothing that's 100%. We all know there's nothing that's foolproof, but we have to increase the odds of saving lives. And by doing that, and again, the FASTER program and some of that is not a commercial for them, don't get me wrong, but the intensity of the training that these folks go through is just as good, and in most cases better than I did going to the range as a full-time cop in Denver. Their curriculum, their qualifications were harder than what I had to go through.
I'm told that. You want to comment on this, please?
Well, I just want to say we've had over a dozen school shootings in this state, and we don't learn. We say we have short-term memory. We take out the SROs, and something happens, and all of a sudden we get reoriented. This is not okay. This cannot be the norm. We've got to get somebody there. We've got to take care of our kids. We've got to do on-the-spot corrections and use the safe to tell. We've got to tell everybody, if you see something, you've got to say something. You've got to counsel kids, and we got to talk to each other. And when people aren't okay, you need to bring that up.
I agree. I mean, it's and when you hear the insanity again, and the Evergreen story and I sat down with guys that had badges, and they told you a whole different version. They did, and they said,
"That's right."
Oh, they said that's where I first heard. I never heard not that it didn't play on the news, but I didn't hear it on the news that this kid reloaded 3 times.
But every time, Peter,
I didn't either. And
every time
yes,
you
ma'am.
hear
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
that these kids have a troubled past, and each time they show signs of mental distress, mental health challenges, and every time nothing has been done. We need to do something about it. We need to get an SRO.
And you know what?
We need to get more help for these kids.
Brett, you're good?
Yes, ma'am. And you know what? I always say, just last thing, Pete, and I'll let you go, but I'll get in touch with you later.
Please.
But yeah, we all know the definition of insanity, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why are we doing the same things, and then we're expecting different results when these shootings happen?
Well said.
And again, ma'am, I so appreciate what you said. Enough is enough.
Yeah.
We can do so much more.
You're good. Wife's good. Everybody's good. Dogs are good. All's well.
Yes, sir. Life is good. I did retire, but again, I'll catch up with you later, brother.
I promise. Thank you, man. Be safe. Thank you. All right, we go to Jim. Jim, you're on a radio show. Our guest is Terri Rascon. We're talking about the Evergreen shooters and guns in school. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I just got a couple points. I think a lot of people that sit on the school boards are using it as a jumping board for higher political office.
Agreed.
So unfortunately, they don't have any skin in the game, as the saying goes. They don't have any kids. I think they should make a rule that says if you're on the school board, you have to have a kid somewhere in that school.
Well, that's what Brett just said. Brett just said, how would you like to say, go to one of these people and say, okay, there's a shooter and there's a guy with a gun in the school. You're on the school board and you're against arming teachers. How do you feel now?
Yeah. I think you deal with people that have already agendas concerning guns, and they sit on the school board because, and it's unfortunate. The other point I would like to say is you were talking on this SRO. My kids were at STEM when the shooting went down. They knew the shooter. And I think the SRO shot one of the kids, so I don't think that's the end-all, be-all.
Well, what was the training? I mean, it's one of the things that goes back to, cops or teachers. Look, the teachers' unions, and I'm a pro-union guy, but public sector unions turn me off. But I agree. They're by and large anti-gun. I
agree. So it's a teacher union.
That's what I meant. I just said the union is pretty much anti-gun. People get on the boards, and one of the things that's been learned is oftentimes teachers elect their own bosses, and that's something to go by as well. No, but I got the music. Thank you for your call, folks on the phone. Stay there. Again, our guest sitting with us is Terri Rascon, 710 KNUS. We are Denver's talk station. 710 KNUS. We are Denver's talk station on a Saturday morning, the 27th of September, 2025, 81 the high. And coming up, Crystal Baldwin. She is the widow of Dave Baldwin, who really was the instrument that begins for the survivors the 12th annual MC1 Honor Run. Our guest in studio is terrific, on and off the air, sitting talking. Her name is Terri Rascon. Remember the name. In Jefferson County. She's running for school board. Let's go back to the phones. We go to Nick in Denver. Nick, thank you. There's a line open, 303-696-1971. Nick, you're on the show. Good morning.
Thanks for taking my call. I just have a general question. Why are the people who have power and can change things so adamant in focusing all their attention on the gun instead of all the other problems that we face in society? You have to deal with reality the way it is. And you're absolutely right, and your guest is absolutely right. We need to have a officer on campus who's armed, who could stop this cold in most cases. What is the opposition? Is it because they don't want people with guns in the school? What is it exactly?
There's and we've been over it 100 times, and we can go over it 101. There's a huge anti-Second Amendment movement in this country. And as really brilliant historians, infinitely smarter than me, and people that study the framers, they'll tell you the First Amendment stays principally because of the Second, which is a true statement. We're watching a First Amendment battle, which I think is ridiculous, and we're watching a Second Amendment. But if you can knock out the First and Second Amendments in this country,
we're done.
It's showtime. Yeah, absolutely. We had open lines this morning for a small segment, and that came up. And this is part and parcel of all of it. In a school where it's happened before. It's like, it's hard to express those thoughts where you go, it's going to rain. Let's get umbrellas. No, we don't need umbrellas. You're going, it's going to rain. And if anybody thinks that was the last school shooting that we're going to see in the state of Colorado that seems to be home to school shootings, you're wrong. Turn it over to Terri. Terri, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we have short-term memory, and right now we have a budget problem. Not to bring something else into the mix, but we have a $60 million budget deficit that's looming, and I think they cut from Peter to give to Paul, but always keep in mind safety's first, because if we don't have that as our priority, we've got our priorities disordered. It's just a problem. Always, parents, I'm a mom, and I want to send my kids to a safe school. I don't want to come back hearing that they're traumatized. I've heard people say, well, it was just so many people died. You know what? There's people injured. There's people who are traumatized by this. This shouldn't be happening. It's just, I know it can happen still, even if we have an SRO, but
it is going to happen.
Yes.
But you have some man or some woman or women and men that are armed.
Yes, and if you have an after-action review after something like this happens, you go back and you look, what happened? What could we have done better? If we did everything we could, okay, I get it, but we are not doing everything that we can to keep our kids safe. We're not.
Back to Nick. Nick, comment.
Two comments. I basically asked a rhetorical question. I know the answers and you know the answers. Two things have to happen to change things. People like your guest need to get elected, who have common sense. They operate out of common sense and not out of ideology. And the other question, I forgot the other question because I'm 80 years old now and I forget things sometimes.
You wait.
But we need a change in leadership for starters.
It's the state. First of all, it's when people talked about, the state of Utah where their death penalty is and all this staunch conservative thought runs the show, Charlie Kirk was killed in Utah. I mean, what? There's a line from The Godfather when they're thinking about they want to kill a guy, and they make the case. Hey, there's nobody that you can't kill if you want to, if you're willing to.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So
exactly right.
Understand that, and
And also now, as you know, you can make a gun off with a 3D printer and download the parts of any gun off the computer.
But getting guns is one of the focuses of the Democrats. They're shutting down.
Yes.
They're shutting down gun stores. We had Alan Samuel on the show.
Right. I remember that.
He's moving. I mean, he's taking his business and he's going elsewhere, and so more and more of these events will happen because, like I said, you ever see somebody say, "I'm going to shoot up a National Guard armory"?
No, of course not.
Why?
Obvious reasons.
Why?
Well, let me ask your guest.
Sure.
Because of the political climate we find ourselves in and the sheer stupidity of too many people, what can sane people do in the meantime to try to mitigate these shootings?
I think the best thing is volunteer and community input. Speak up, say something. If you want change, you've got to be involved. Just speak up, say something, tell people you're not okay with not having an SRO. The PTA, the night before this happened, they brought it up. They brought it up saying, we don't have one. And the principal said, well, we're not a priority school. After over a dozen shootings in the state, it just...
How do they know what's a priority and what's not a priority? I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Well, but, there's something called hardening the target. And, and it's when you're going to get Scud missiles dropped on you, you harden the target. Ask the Ukrainians, or better yet, ask Vladimir Putin. Or there's a reason Hitler ends up in the bunker. I mean, it just historically is proven to be correct. But you got to harden the target, and you got to make people think twice. You step in there and you run your mouth. That's just 101.
Let me make.
I work with Patriot missiles, so I know exactly what you're saying.
She's, by the way, she's a retired Army First Sergeant too, which, give her every other reason to elect her.
One more, exactly. I will do that. But anyway, right now I'd like to point out that there are non-lethal guns on the market that don't have to go through all this background check, that will take a guy down and put him down for at least a half an hour until the police arrive. They are available right now.
Whatever the reasons and whatever the ways, I think it needs to be done. Nick, I appreciate it. We're coming up on time. Her name is Terri. Last name is spelled Rascon. You're from East LA, which is like you came. You did how many years? 23 in the Army.
Correct.
Retired in EA.
23 good years.
Yeah. What was your job?
I loved it. I work with Patriot missiles.
Okay.
And then I went into recruiting. I was in charge of the Hollywood recruiting station.
Oh, boy.
From there, I worked at the headquarters of recruiting, where I did a lot of Lean Six Sigma. It's business process reengineering. I was in charge of the Warrant Officer Flight Training Program, the Officer Candidate Program. Went into special operations recruiting, and my last job, I ended up here in Colorado, where I was a first sergeant in charge of the recruiting stations for a third of the state, and also a senior guidance counselor where people join here in Denver.
So the district you're going to be running for is 5, District 5. And it's the 4th of November is the election, so it's not that far away. And we'll probably, I promise I'll bring you back and when we get to the end of October, and we'll do a quick phone interview, a drop to remind people that
Thank you.
It has to change. I mean, it's...
Everyone in Jefferson County, I bring a fresh perspective. I will make change. I want to do better for our schools. I want to do better for my children. I want to do better for all of the Jeffco children. As a former foster mom, all these children are my children.
Yeah, it goes without saying. And like I said, when I really was given the lowdown on this guy emptied a revolver 3 times, and a school SRA could have come out and popped him. It's good to meet you. Thanks for doing the show. And we're coming back with Crystal Baldwin. It's a Saturday, September 27th. I'm Peter Boyles. This is 710 KNUS. Ric Flair, Slick Rick. 81 will be the high. Now I say good afternoon, everyone. 710 KNUS Denver's talk station on a Saturday, the September 27th, 2025. And tomorrow will be, for the 12th time, the MC1 Honor Run. We had Frank DeAngelis and Mark Miller on this morning. Work a year on this project, and we do it right. This woman has become a dear, dear friend, and her husband is the man who lost his life in the line of duty that set it up for MC1. That was Dave Baldwin's call sign. And this is a remarkable woman. We've become friends, and she's perfect to put on the show, especially in this last hour before the run. Crystal Baldwin. Hey, lady, good morning. Or good afternoon, I should say. Good afternoon, welcome back. There we go. I'll straighten that out.
There you go. Hey, Peter.
Hey, lady. I'm fine. I'm really fine. And we had Frank and Mark on early this morning. We've been having everybody on and pumping it up. But I got to tell you about Crystal. Crystal rides her own bike. And you and Dave used to come to Emily's parade. I was talking to our guest, Terri Rascon, about Emily Keys.
Yeah.
And Dave was like this. I thought Dave was a biker. I mean, and he was. I mean, he was a biker, but
yeah.
I didn't know he was a sheriff. And
right.
And
we rode in Emily's parade for years.
Yes,
you know, and obviously he did not go in uniform, so
no.
You know, we just rode it, you know, just to support.
And I never knew until we lost him, and DeAngelis called me, and I said, of course I remembered, you know, I remember Dave coming to our events, but he never, I mean, I just remember Dave, you know, Dave Baldwin, big raw bone guy, rode hard, good biker, and that you were with him. You had this hot blonde riding with him, and you ride your own bike. And
yeah.
When did you start riding motorcycles?
Actually, I started riding about 23 years ago, right before I moved to Colorado.
So you were riding.
I didn't buy a bike. Till I got here because I was living on the East Coast, which is much more dangerous to be learning on a bike. And then I knew I was moving here, so I just waited. I had my license, but I waited till I got here to buy a bike and start riding here. And so I was riding when I met Dave.
I was going to ask.
Yeah. Dave was not a motor sergeant or not with the motor unit at that time.
Yeah.
So, but he actually, at the time that when we were riding in Emily's Parade, and then later, you may remember that he ended up working for the sheriff's office. He worked the traffic, you know, letting the bikes out.
And I never put it together because it was like elephants and zebras when he came. I probably would have thought just some other big cop because I'm looking for Dave, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know the great sadness, and it's the 12th annual. How long has Dave been gone now, Crystal? He's been gone. How many years?
Yeah, it will be 12 in January.
That's what I thought, and Crystal has come and been with us, and the respect for your husband and all the people that we've met. I've told the story about meeting Jeff Schrader probably too many times, but I didn't know he was the sheriff, which shows you how bright I am, and I didn't know Dave was a cop until after we lost Dave, and then it's DeAngelis that told me, and then I met Mark Miller. That's how I met Mark Miller, and
we were lucky enough with the MC1 ride when that started to come together, that Emily's Parade was still happening. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, it was.
Those two things overlapped for a few years before they decided to stop doing that. But we were very fortunate, and I still want to say thank you so much to the Keys family. But, you know, that the Emily's Parade people, boy, they took us by the hand, and you and Frank and everybody just kind of helped get that established, you know, because nobody knew how to do that.
No.
They did know how to do that.
Well, we did. We learned the hard way, but how to screw things up. But and I like meeting Jeff, and Jeff will be with us tomorrow. Jeff is always there. Jeff Schrader, and I've told the story. It's like who's who. Nobody puts it on, and we were cleaning motorcycles together. And I meet this guy, and then the Freedom Harley Davidson was still on West Colfax before they became Avalanche. And I said, I don't even know what year it was, and I said, the new Harleys are out. You want to go ride over and look at them? And he said, sure. And we rode over, parked the bikes, we're in there, and I said, oh, by the way, I'm Peter Boyles. He said, I know who you are. And I said, who are you? And he said, I'm the sheriff of Jefferson County. And I went like, and we became great friends then, and all of that stuff was wonderful. So tomorrow, you will be there, and you'll come up on the stage and be with us. And it's the MC1 Honor Run. 65 survivors helped. We've raised, learn to talk. We've raised over $500,000. That's incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And the other thing, Peter, that I've just been thinking about so much with the events of the last couple of weeks, the thing that really strikes me, I'll probably talk about this tomorrow, but that always gets me is, with what just happened here in Evergreen, is that what people don't realize is the men and women that do this job, the first responders, fire, police, all of them, they are running to that. They were there in minutes, and they put their life on the line, and sometimes they get hurt. Sometimes, unfortunately, they die. And, what MC1 does to support them, their families, it helps their kids. And it is not just financial support. It is emotional support. It's forever. They are part of this group that lifts them up, supports them. They go to the hospital. MC1 does. They go to their home. They help them cut trees, fix their. They've done it for me. Help me cut firewood. They do so much. And it's forever. You call them, and they're there. So when people donate to this organization or come out to that ride, please come out to the ride because it's so fun, and we're going to have a beautiful day. But it goes much further than just being handed a check, and this organization does it really well.
And I've gotten to know all the guys and watched everybody work and gone to the after parties, and I've seen the guys cry over their friends, and it's awful. And but tomorrow is a celebration of all of that.
Either that's the important thing to know. Everybody there tomorrow is a volunteer. They put every cent back into helping, the first responders.
So if you ride in motorcycle, whatever kind of motorcycle you got, and if you just want to park out on the street and walk in and see, the ceremony is really emotional. Yeah, you can do that.
It is.
Or you can head up to the end event and watch the cops change uniforms and start to drink beer.
And have a good time.
Oh, they have a great time. And they, you know what? Yeah. It's like they don't drink in uniform, obviously, but they want to have a couple of beers, and then they become civilians, and it's really and I always ride with Jeff, and I will see you tomorrow. And
okay, Peter.
Yeah. By the way, do you still have the business that you've been running?
I do, yeah.
Give it a plug.
Earthbeat Boutique, yeah.
Give it a plug.
Yeah, in Golden, it's a French-style boutique in Golden. If it's a girly store, if you need something for a girl, come see me. Or you are a girl, come see me.
All right, get the street address. Do it right.
Yeah, I'm at 1224 Arapahoe in downtown Golden.
And the name of the shop, the name of the place is?
Earth Sweet Boutique.
Okay. I'll see you tomorrow, lady. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much for your support, Peter.
Oh, thank you. Bye. So, for the survivors, $500,000 have been raised, and if you want to make it, DeAngelis keeps Columbine in the game, and they're really wonderful. So, 8 a.m. is registration, 9:15 is the ceremony. First bikes are out at 10, and this place called the Main Event. It's $40 a rider, $50 if you bring a passenger, and it's tax deductible, and you can do that. All right, we go to open lines, 303-696-1971. We started talking about the country this morning and what you see going on and the fights that are here and how the media affects or doesn't affect. And there's a great line from Marshall McLuhan. And McLuhan said, and tell me if you can focus on this. McLuhan said, He's the one that talked about the vast wasteland, and he was talked about the moments of you will have. So the media doesn't, the mainstream media, and then we'll take the calls. And when people say it teaches you how to what to think about, or rather, it tells you how to think. But it really does. And McLuhan's right. It gives you the ideas of what to talk about, and it doesn't control your mind, as some people suggest, but it does very powerfully have an effect on what you talk about. All right, 303-696-1971. We start with Marty. We'll go to Marty on line one. You're on a radio show. Good afternoon, brother man. Thanks.
Well, it's so good to be with you, Peter, and I love the honorable cause, the righteous cause. So we're giving full blessings and support around there. So very good work. We have a very serious crisis, basically brewing right before we speak. And I know you're an Oswald guy, so I don't want to go there. But we're being lied to about the closure.
I'm not. You're talking about Lee Harvey Oswald?
Yeah.
I'm not an Oswald.
The narrative. The narrative of what's been told from the government back then, I'm not a believer of what government says is final. And as we found with the release, they were not fully disclosing all the players back in the 1960s. And I'm telling you right now, with the Charlie Kirk assassination, they're lying to us. And I think it can be dispelled and proven in like 3 different events. And so I'm concerned that there's been this uniting, especially on the conservative side, is that we're going with the homosexual killer, lone killer, and the Christian parents turning him in, and we found the breadcrumbs and all that. We're being lied to, and I think we're falling for it, lock, stock, barrel.
Right, let me stop.
Believe that
Stop for
Peter?
a second. Stop. No.
Okay.
Tell me what the lie is that's being told about the murder or assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Well, I think the greatest lie is that they're saying it's this 22-year-old revenging his trans lovers.
Do you think there's another shooter?
Well, I don't think it's these guys at all. I think
that's not what I asked you. It's not what I asked you.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, Peter. Yes, it is not he. There is another shooter, absolutely different gun, different location. I mean, the fact that thaugh're telling us, Peter, this is a 30-06 that was shot straight on, dead on, face forward, not from the side with the exit wound and all of these things. The fact that they're telling us, and then they tell us, Peter, no autopsy, the neck bone stopped the bullet. Now, come on, Peter. Now, this is sounding very much like 9/11. This is sounding very much like the COVID shot, where all these perfections are happening right before our eyes, and we're just supposed to not believe our eyes. I mean, when you think about it, what is actually, he's not confessed. The trans lovers disappeared.
All right,
we have nothing other than the text messages.
All right, so
nothing.
I'm trying to hone your belief. Do you believe the murder came from the left side of the ledger or the right side of the ledger?
It came from the establishment of power that says this guy is working against our interests, and he's cutting our messaging off at the young 18 to 30-year-old, which is something that we cannot lose if we want to maintain our structure of power, order, manipulation, 2 tiers of justice, all that. So this is above all that stuff. That's the shame in this.
When you say,
do
you believe that he was then murdered by what people call the deep state?
I think it's definitely more, I would say it's more intelligence, Mossad, CIA intelligence related.
So
those are all functioning bodies. That's deep state, though. That's Israelis. And let me just spell this out, because you've got to understand this and take this to heart if you're a listener. You got to look at who benefits. Who benefits from the left? The left. We're sold that the left did this. They're so rageful. They're so hateful. We're coming after the right, and we'll use violence. That's the candy on the side to get us all riled up. That's just not a practical thing, because guess what? It only benefited the right. And they knew that going forward, because they saw the same outcome with Trump. But you think about who benefits, and you think about Israel, and this is Benjamin Netanyahu. And let me be clear for the people. These are not the Jews of the Bible. This is not Moses and Abraham. This is a very different form. Modern-day Judaism in Israel is a very wicked thing. And Peter, I've interviewed a pastor that spent about a week in Jerusalem with Bibi, and this is what he reported. He said, I thought I was looking at a great white shark. I stared in those eyes. I saw nothing but death. I see a very similar thing. But his ambitions, his motivations, do not align with the TPUSA movement of the youth. We want freedom. We want control of our finances. We don't want to be manipulated and lied and thought we got to do status
So
quo
let me, if I
with
can,
how it worked.
This is Marty the
Please.
caller. Okay, let me try again.
Yes.
So you believe that the deep state or the establishment or the Israelis, Mossad, CIA, and again, much of the lineup that historians look at in terms of Jack Kennedy. And I believe, I believe this, by the way, that to the young generation that was so affected, Charlie Kirk was their Kennedy. The taking of his life was very much, I mean, I'm a young guy working, but Jack Kennedy's murdered. This is their Kennedy. This is their Kennedy. I mean, there were people that were glad that Jack was dead. And there were obviously people that were glad when Alan Berg was killed. I was telling a friend the letters and the things that were sent to me after Berg's murder. And the mild ones would say he deserved it. It was a big mouth, and it would get worse from there. So the stuff after Charlie Kirk and the idiocy that was, but now you're not alone. I read quite a bit, and there are people that are saying Charlie Kirk was beginning to ask about Gaza. He was beginning to ask about the money. He was really beginning to ask, and this is private stuff, about the Epstein files. That's right. And they conclude that, at this point, I mean, it's really, it really pulls appeal. And in fact, this morning, Adam and I get a text message, and it says you can't see the gun when he drops off the back of the roof, so Adam has technical abilities far beyond mine, so we slowed it down, and you can see a rifle, but they said it was his grandfather's. But hang on, but I grew up with a kid whose dad actually took me hunting. His dad was a World War II combat guy, and he had somehow snuck a Mauser rifle home. And they was the thing, somebody can explain it better than I can, but they called it sporterizing. And his dad took off the German stock and put on a sporting rifle stock, and his dad had put glass on it as well, just like they say this murderer, if he's the murderer, put glass on the rifle. It's his grandfather's rifle. But the weird thing is, it's a 30-06, and I thought that I remember Sam's dad. I thought it was a 9mm, was the Mauser round, and so even the gun stuff is people don't buy that, and they're not saying. And I'm not qualified, but they're saying that's not a World War II German rifle, and I don't know what it's been. So we got a minute to the pause.
Yeah.
Who do you think did this?
So this is certainly that same apparatus that you would find pulling off an Epstein who killed himself in jail. This is that entity. It is that entity that continues to benefit from the quieting of any conversation that goes into our global political power structure. And unfortunately, Israel and these modern-day Talmudic Jews that go around pretending they're holy, but on the backside, that's the hypocrisy, the Pharisees that Christ talked about. These are the ones with enormous wealth and enormous influence, and the Epstein list is at the center of this, and so they know that, and that has the ability to crumble all the structure the last 60 years. So God bless you, Peter. We'll do it again next time.
All right, brother. 303-696-1971. Lines are open. Open lines. Hang on, everyone. It's Saturday. everybody. Lines are wide open for the first time since the show started. If you were trying to call, you got a busy, or you were now want to jump on the show, 303-696-1971. Do you question the assassination of Charlie Kirk? There's so much of this now flying around that they're comparing it to Kennedy, comparing it to other things. Have you been reading that, and get your thoughts? And it's open lines, do what you wish. 81, sunny, 80 tomorrow, and 78 on Monday. 303-696-1971. Lines are wide open. Jump the show. Dan Caplis Law, my friend, and Danny suggests that who you choose as a lawyer shares your values, and because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says so much about you. And again, there's so many great things about Danny, what goes on, and son of a cop, and has worked really, really hard. I met him when he first became an attorney here in town, did KOA radio, and that's where I first met Dan. Dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people win, and again, this 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. And Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law, former law firm partner of the Nuggets, and now the Nuggets and the Avs. He's law partner with them. Serious firm for serious cases. If you have a question, a problem, call Dan, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or on the internet, hit dancaplis.com, dancaplis.com. If you got questions, he is the man. Get it out, Peter. 303-770-5551. We have one line open, 303-696-1971. Adam's clearing calls. Throw me the first name you got, and we'll go to the work. We'll go to work. And again, thanking Frank DeAngelis and Mark Billard this morning. And Steffan Tubbs was with us this morning at 10, and he was talking about his recovery from that cancer operation. Mike Connors was with us, talking about Robert Redford's daughter, and Terri Rascon talking about running for Jeffco Schools. Here we go. Let's start. Now we have full lines. All right, Gary in Denver, you're on 710 KNUS. Good morning and thank you. Good afternoon and thank you.
Good afternoon, Peter. I wanted to know, this the Charlie Kirk assassination and, everything surrounding it. I believe, they seem to think certain people they seem to think that this is going to change things for the going forward. But if I were to predict in a week or two, this will just become yesterday's news and we'll move on just like we do for school shootings and everything else. I think this is just a blip in history and it'll go away very quickly. What do you think?
No, I don't. I think because it'll be used. And Berg's assassination did go away pretty quick, but it was, if you remember, it was Denver. People knew about the killing afterward, everything, but Berg was really a Denver personality. Charlie Kirk was on his way to being, my belief, he was on his way to being the next Rush Limbaugh, and for the young conservatives, he is their Kennedy. I don't think it's going to drop the way that people think. I think more it'll be, especially if it begins this conspiracy story that's really running hot on a lot of the websites, and that caller called and mentioned it as well. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Pete, but before he got assassinated, I really never heard anything about this guy. I knew he had a radio show. I didn't.
He was big. He was growing he was here. He did an hour, then they stretched him to 2 hours, and I'll tell you what, he made a lot of money for Salem radio. I could give you an example. When Limbaugh came on the scene, and it was Roger Ailes, and they create the EIB. But Limbaugh has this great talent. So he was here on this station, 710 KNUS, and until he started beating KOA. And KOA was at the time owned by, it was J-Corps at the time or Clear Channel, I'm not sure. But they made the deal, and they bought the syndication of Rush Limbaugh. And I don't know what they paid for it, but they brought Limbaugh off of this station and put Limbaugh on KOA. And so this station went through it really went black. It went off the air. It was in the the cash register building in downtown. It was run by a guy named Tony Brooks. And they dropped the format because of losing money. Then it was bought again and brought out of the darkness by Salem Broadcasting. Well, this young man, Charlie Kirk, he was getting them numbers and he was making them money, and he was on his way to becoming, I think, the next Limbaugh, and maybe beyond that, because I know so many young men and women, and everybody's young to me, but that were so affected by his death, his murder. And so I don't know. I don't think it's going to go away.
Yeah, and you might be right. I tend to believe it will. But, I've been watching some of his appearances at these colleges, and I think because he was so unique, if you watch what he says, he really had his he really was sharp in his beliefs, and he was able to respond very well. And I just don't think there's a replacement for that. And for that reason, I think his effect will diminish.
Well, again, it's so hard to know. You know that they're trying to jockey somebody into that position, and it's like trying to replace Alan Berg. It just wasn't going to happen. Berg was Berg, and he was a unique talent, and whether anybody wanted to emulate him, and people tried, and they couldn't do it. Limbaugh's Limbaugh. Everybody that does one of these shows that has a microphone in front of them, you got to thank Limbaugh. Even if guys that pretend they don't like him, or maybe they didn't like him, I don't know. But you got to give him the credit for what he did. And then he got sick, of course, and has passed away. It was a different ending. Charlie Kirk was, 31 years old? No, there's similarities, but there are major differences. And you're right about Berg fading. Berg faded into history, and I thought it was wrong. And certainly we have a great honor to him in the Denver Press Club, but it took a long time to get it. The Colorado Broadcasters Hall of Fame has never recognized the guy. The city of Denver has never made anything about his life, and we have Dick Connor Boulevard, which should be. We have Daddy Bruce Randolph. We have Omar Jah. They're all places in the city that are named and marked for them. And if there ever was, a hate killing or a hate crime, it was Berg. And there's nothing. There's no marking. There's no street name. There's no bench. There's no, any of it. And you have to ask the city of Denver why. But there's a movement now to put statues of Charlie Kirk on university grounds. I don't think that'll happen, given Kirk and universities, but he could easily be. Your point's well taken. He could be lost to history, but I think he'll be around for a while. Berg was almost instant. They brought guys in to try and be Berg and replace Berg, and it just wasn't done, because he was so crazy and so unique. So I don't know. They're looking. You can bet they're looking for Charlie Kirk replacements. But I think the guy, I used to listen to the guy. I thought he was really, really talented, and he was on the air, and he was unique, and I don't think anybody's going to be him. But now this begins on the conspiracy, and it was almost, I don't know if it was predictable, but it's really on the internet now.
Yeah. All right. Well,
right,
time will. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, brother. All right, we go to, lines are open. We go to Don. Good afternoon, Don. You're on the radio show. Thank you.
Hey, Uncle Pete. How's it going?
My boy. It's going good.
I want to make a brief comment on the Charlie Kirk situation. I was sitting here listening to you and some of the callers, and it's my opinion that if the left keeps on its present course, it's going to wind up opening the gates of hell, and they're not going to be able to close them again.
Well, from 12,000 miles up, historically all empires fail. And they all fail for the same reasons. They fail internally.
Yeah, they do.
And, there's external things that happen to empires, but inside, empires fail internally. And I really did think, and I thought that Charlie Kirk's assassination could have easily become Sarajevo when Prince Sept kills Franz Ferdinand and his wife. And that's the kind of thing that you heard. And I got text messagings that said it's now open season on Democrats. That kind of stuff. And there's people
when the one two Democrat politicians were shot up in what was it? Minnesota.
Yeah.
I mean, one woman was killed, and I think they were both killed.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, this is what a really bad road. This is way off the original topic I wanted to talk about, but Carl Denninger I've been listening to him, and he's read a book on the start of the Bosnian Civil War, and I'm planning on getting it. He says there's so many correlations between the breakup of Yugoslavia and the path we're on now, and I've seen that for a while.
But remember, Yugoslavia was one of those nation states that was created.
Yeah, it was.
And it was held together by Tito. And because Tito, he was a strong man, and he was anti-Soviet Union. He was a socialist Marxist, but he was anti the Soviets and he was anti the U.S. And he kept Yugoslavia. When Tito died, and I've read a lot of books about it and talked to people, they revert back to the Second World War. And remember, when...
Oh, God, that was ugly.
Well, the chances...
That really was.
Well, Tito, and Tito's... He was the third guy to use the name Tito. But the Serbs and the Croats and Muslims versus the Serbs. And there was... I think they called them the Iron Guard. And they battled each other, and when the war's over, and remember, without that fight, Adolf Hitler had to send armor units because of the Greeks and what was taking place with Serbs and Croats to quell them. And that
killed, delayed Barbarossa by about a couple of months.
That's right. It delayed the invasion of the Soviet Union, and had the Greeks and others, particularly what was taking place in Yugoslavia, that Adolf Hitler would have made it into the Kremlin before the snow hit. And it's one of those quirks in history.
I'm not so sure. Well, he probably would have made it into the Kremlin, but I don't think that would have ended the war.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it would have been a lot harder for the Soviets to eventually win the war, but they'd have gotten there before winter, which was their target.
Yeah.
And so then, but they have memories, and this is something that the U.S. I think misses. And so Tito's dead. Let's go back and get him again, and Croats and Serbs and Muslims began again. The same thing that was going on before the First World War and after the First World War. And that's the thing about Palestinians and Israelis, or Ukrainians and even when it's the Romanovs are playing hell with the Ukrainians. And
oh yeah,
and it's I can put you on hold. You want, because I know you want to complete.
Oh yeah, sure.
Throw them on hold if you would. But we can talk about why Putin is what Putin is, what's happening in this country with all of that going on, and we're playing this other game. So 303-696-1971, 710 KNUS, Peter Boyles on an afternoon show. We'll take your calls right after this. One I Got. Playing the tunes. Your tune tycoon, Peter Boyles. 81 the high. Ain't no woman like the one I got. 80 the high on Sunday for the MC1 and 78 on Monday. We're in open lines, 303-696-1971. Back to the calls. We have two lines open. This is Don and Aurora, and we were talking about Charlie Kirk and the world and the flesh and the devil. Go ahead, Don. It's yours.
Yeah, could you explain something to me? Why on earth is the United States of America bailing out Argentina? Argentina's been a basket case all my life.
Oh yeah. No, why is foreign policy the foreign policy this country has, where the two great goodbye addresses, George Washington, who talks about foreign entanglements, and Dwight David Eisenhower, who talks about the military-industrial complex. I mean, and it's like talking about when we were talking with Terri Rascon, why isn't anybody smart enough to put people with guns inside of schools? Don, I don't know.
I don't get it. Especially the idea of putting people with guns in schools. That's just, to me, that's a common horse sense.
Sure. That doesn't.
I have such a hard time wrapping my mind around why so many people have a problem with that. But I understand it's about guns.
Yeah, it's exactly right. That when they blamed, it was really funny, not funny in a funny way, but in a serious way, when all these fill in the blanks came out and said, well, Charlie Kirk said a certain amount of people have to be shot, and I don't know if he said it or they're paraphrasing him, for us to have the Second Amendment. And so that was an idea, take away the Second Amendment. I'm thinking to myself, you idiots, you say that exactly what you just got done saying about schools. Here's overwhelming evidence, or at least in my mind, that a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy, or at least slows him down. Yeah. And they're upset that Kirk would say something to the difference that, and I mean, it's like the defense of all of this stuff is insane. Where's the common sense? And your question is, and the United States becomes what it becomes after the Second World War. The rise of the multinational corporations. The rest of the world is in ruin. We replace the French. We replace, the British. We find ways to be imperialistic. The CIA overthrows the Shah. Puts the Shah back on the throne after he's voted out of office. What happens in Guatemala? What happens? It's repetitious.
You're talking about stuff that was going on before I was born, and we're still hearing the echoes.
Well, that's what I tried to explain to the first caller this morning. It didn't happen in a vacuum, and it didn't start yesterday afternoon. This is ongoing, and that's why when empires fail, they don't fail overnight. We watched the end of the British Empire.
There's a guy, I forgot his name, he calls it stair-stepping the less and less complexity.
Yeah. The British Empire failed, and it failed for the same reasons that the Spanish Empire failed.
Have you been keeping up with what's going on in Britain? That is terrifying.
Oh yeah.
It's honestly becoming a failed state.
Well, people that are jailed for speaking.
Free speech. Yeah.
Now, there was a place in Hyde Park. I don't know if you've ever been to London.
I have. I was stationed there in the 80s.
All right. Did you ever go to Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park?
I sure did. I sure have.
All right. Well, I think Trotsky spoke there. Marx spoke there, and the rule was that you just couldn't say anything about the monarch.
Right.
Other than that, you could, and people. I went twice, and people have soapboxes, and they get on them and stages, and it's called Speaker's Corner. And prior to political correctness really clamping down, I think you couldn't say anything about Elizabeth when I was there. She was queen, and short of that, you could say. And there was a lot of evangelical stuff and Marxists and just whatever it was. But it was like the greatest talk radio station I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I thought it should be mandatory that people at least go there at least for an hour or two just to listen.
Yeah, and I went to Speaker's Corner 2 different times, and I was really proud of it. And I said, wow. But now, like I just mentioned Berg couldn't work. Today, in today's conditions, Alan Berg could not work. They wouldn't allow him to work. He would not be. Yeah, no, but it's true. And there are certain things that you just can't talk about because you get accused immediately. And we watched it happen. We watched the people that were really glad that Charlie Kirk was dead, and then the insipidness of Jimmy Kimmel, or the stupidity of
Can I make a Jimmy Kimmel prediction?
Yeah, because I got one too.
Yeah, his numbers are like 11 million.
Right now they are.
Right now they are. We'll see what they are about February. I bet they'll be back in the toilet.
Oh, sure. He didn't have numbers, and he was losing money, but he becomes. There's much more, because the little that I do know about how this business works, you got standards and practices, and they're lawyers. That decision was made both ways. Was made in boardrooms at Disney. It wasn't. Yeah. In spite of what on-air people want to believe or the stuff that I've listened to, it's not true.
It's about money.
No, it's always about money.
Always been about money.
And the first guy that says, Peter, this isn't about the money, I know he's lying. It's about the money.
Yeah, that's when you say, yeah, it is about the money.
Yeah, of course it is. Don't tell me that.
That's when you back away and put make sure your back's against the wall.
Yeah, how smart. My parents raised a lot of ugly kids, but not many stupid ones. And when you say, Peter, this isn't about the money, of course it isn't. So the Charlie Kirk thing.
My dad create lines is it's all about money.
It's always about money. Yeah. And so what happened, and we'll know, there'll be a book written, it'll be a good book about what happened to Disney and what happened to ABC and what happens to, the Republican Party and what happens to Salem Broadcasting that was the syndicator and all this different stuff. And there was a decision made. I'll tell you what, Jimmy Kimmel, he'll drop like a rock after he is done becoming the cause celeb. And I've never seen the guy. I can honestly say I've never seen the guy work, so I don't know what his act is. I don't know what his act is, but it'll eventually return. And one of the things I think that was going on with Disney, the guy's not making bucks. He's got no numbers. And then the syndicators didn't want him. And that goes back to the Dan Rather stuff, where syndicators didn't want Dan Rather. They didn't want him taking Cronkite's chair because of what they thought he had done to Richard Nixon. Fact of the matter is, he did great work. He got rid of Nixon. And he was one of the people that got rid of Nixon, and Nixon should have gone. He should have gone way before he went, but for another day. But they were after him for being after Nixon. But that's when in the politics of this business, and news or talk radio, I don't care what it is, music radio, it's money. Anytime you don't think it's about money, and I tell you what, if Jimmy Kimmel would have had a 23 share, they'd have never even thought about letting him go.
Yeah, it wouldn't even have been a debate or discussion about it.
If he made a third of the money Carson made, he would have never been one way or the other. They'd have found a way to get around it. Then they found out the feedback, and everybody cancels their Disney Channel, and everything's going on, and Trump's pretty ham-handed about it, and and they make a decision to bring him back. But just give it time; he'll be out the door. I give it before summer of next year. I don't argue that. I got to cut it because we're coming up on time.
Okay.
You want to cut him off? Cut him off, please. Hey, take his call. There we go. He's still on. Take his call, please. There we go. Give me a second. All right. I'll see everybody hopefully tomorrow, MC1 Honor Run. And if there's a place, the main event up north, if you just want to come to the party, and that'll be up there. Thank everybody for doing the show. DeAngelis and Mark Miller, Steffan Tubbs, good to have him back. Mike Connors, thank you. Crystal Baldwin and Terri Rascon.